Hi, I'm Denise Domke. I'm the President and CEO of the West Sacramento Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of the Board of Directors of the Chamber, I'd like to welcome you to the 2022 Candidates Forum. We'd like to thank Spring Hill Suites for hosting us this evening, for allowing us to turn their beautiful event center into a recording studio. And I'd like to encourage you to swing by and take a look. This is a really lovely new amenity in our community. You know, the Chamber's been producing the Candidates Forum for over 2 decades. And we do it in part because we know it's important to not only the community, but to the region to have an informed electorate. So we thank you for being here. Your participation is important, and we hope you have a good evening.
Well, thank you, Denise, and welcome everybody to the Spring Hill Suites in West Sacramento. We're proud to be a part of this community, and would also be thrilled for you to stop by and check out our beautiful facility. We are coming to you from our ballroom. We have a 3,400 square foot ballroom. We have a boardroom and 97 spacious, beautiful suites. So we hope you have time to stop by. I'll be more than happy to give you a personal tour myself. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful day. Cheerio.
Hello, West Sacramento residents and business leaders. My name is Jesse Salinas, and I am the Yolo County Register of Voters. It is an honor and privilege to welcome you to the West Sacramento Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum. Yes, it is election time again, with the 2022 general election coming up on Tuesday, November 8th. Yolo County officially became a Voters' Choice Act county in March, which means voters have more ways and more days to return their ballot. In West Sacramento, ballot drop boxes are available from October 10th through 8 p.m. on election night on November 8th, and are located at City Hall, Nugget Market, and State Food Supermarket, formerly Artiegas. The City Hall ballot drop box is an exterior drop box that is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Interior drop boxes are available during the store's regular business hours. In West Sacramento, City Hall Galleria rooms are available for 11 days as a vote center. It will be open Saturday, October 29th through Monday, November 7th, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Election Day, November 8th, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Additional vote centers will be open for 4 days in West Sacramento at Bridgeway Lakes Boathouse, at Bright CCT as well. These locations will be open from Saturday, November 5th to Monday, November 7th, also from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Election Day from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. At vote centers, voters can return their vote by mail ballot and register and vote regardless of where they live in Yolo County. Don't forget to register and let your voice be heard this November. For more information, visit us on social media or at our website, yoloelections.org. Thank you for being an engaged voter.
Good evening. My name is Chelsea Miner, and I'm Executive Director of Community Impact and Public Affairs for Raley's, and I am very excited to be tonight's moderator. In addition to my day job, I'm actually the past board member and chair of the West Sacramento Chamber of Commerce, and I continue to serve by supporting the Chamber's advocacy program. I want to welcome all of our viewers online on Facebook for joining us this evening. Thanks for taking some time out of your day. Tonight's forum is brought to you by the West Sacramento Chamber of Commerce as a service to our community. The goal of tonight is to introduce each of you to the candidates that are running for office and allow our voters to learn more about their positions and platforms. Just as a small note, the Chamber does not endorse candidates. I'm going to start by going over the rules for tonight's forum. This is a forum and not a debate. We intend to ask thoughtful questions and get thoughtful answers from all candidates. We're going to ask the candidates to direct the answers to you, the audience, and not to their fellow candidates. We ask our candidates not to interrupt each other while the other is speaking. I'm going to adjust the order in which I ask the candidates the questions, so each of them will have the opportunity to answer first. I'll indicate how much time is allowed per question, and we have a timekeeper who will provide a 1 minute, 30-second, and 15-second warning that your time is almost up, which means that you need to start wrapping up. The timekeeper will also hold up a stop sign when the time is up, and when necessary, I will politely interrupt you if you've exceeded your time. To help our voters watching this forum, we ask our candidates to draw contrasts between them and their fellow candidates. We encourage them to be specific when answering questions and offer clear solutions. When necessary, I reserve the right to ask follow-up questions if it's to the benefit of the audience or a follow-up question is necessary. For all of our viewers online, we encourage you to be a part of this conversation and forum. We ask that you share your questions in the chat. We've got a team here that will look for key themes and directionally topics, and we'll ask some of the community questions towards the end of each of our sessions this evening. Tonight, our first forum is for two candidates for the Washington Unified School District Area 1. Area 1 includes the north area of town, including Bright and the Rivers. Some of the schools include Washington Middle College, Elkhorn Village, Westfield Village, and Riverbank Elementary. I'd like to start by welcoming our candidates for Washington Unified School District Area 1, Christy Barnes and Virginia Coffey. Welcome. Thank you both for being here tonight. We're going to start with opening statements. You each will have 2 minutes to introduce yourself to our online audience and to provide background about yourself, and maybe start by explaining why you're running for Washington Unified School District. Prior to tonight, I've randomly selected who will go first, and for tonight, we're going to begin with Virginia Coffey. Floor is yours.
Thank you so very much, and thank you all for hosting this, so that way we can definitely express who we are and why we should have your vote. Well, first off, I would like to say that I have been raised in West Sacramento, born and raised, third generation now from West Sacramento. While I've been here, I have also went to Bright Elementary when it was Bright Elementary, then to Riverbank, which it used to be Golden State, and currently now, and then River City High School. I am a first-generation Mexican-American going to college. I attended St. Mary's College of California, and where I received my teaching credential as well as my Master's of Arts in Teaching. While I was there, I was part of the High Potential Program, which is basically a program to assist first generations going to college. And as I pursued that career, came out and became a teacher within West Sacramento, Washington Unified School District, where I had served as a teacher in Westfield Village, and then also at YOLO Continuation High School, where I have made a lot of impact in my students throughout the years that I was there. And one of the reasons that I believe that I am a qualified candidate is because I am from West Sacramento. I have been raised here. I know the issues that are going around the District 1. I have 3 students, or 3 kids myself, who live in or who go to Riverbank, which is in District 1. I understand the issues and the needs of the entire, well, not the entire West Sacramento, but I know what's going on. I'm also a part of the West Sacramento Bears, and where I have been an executive board member and assisting in the community and what it is as a whole. And that's it. Okay.
Christy, opening statements, 2 minutes to you.
Thank you. Thank you to the Chamber and to you, Chelsea, for moderating this. I grew up in South Texas, and I come from a large family. I have 4 sisters who are my best friends. I went to nursing school on the East Coast and then moved to the Sacramento area in 2011. We moved to West Sacramento approximately 6 years ago, and I have absolutely loved every minute of getting to know this community and making new friends and relationships here. Our 2 children attend the Elkhorn Village Spanish Dual Immersion Program in WUSD, and we couldn't be happier with our teachers and staff. I've worked hard over the past year to ensure that all children in WUSD thrive. I was unanimously appointed to the school board in 2020 while schools were closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Safely reopening our schools was of utmost priority at the time. Not only did we work collaboratively as a board and district to safely reopen our schools, but we also continued to oversee the implementation of equitable projects across the district. We applied COVID relief funds to programs and resources needed to support our students who suffered learning loss, mental health struggles, and other traumas related to our shutdown. I'm extremely, extremely proud of our work as a very cohesive board over the past year and a half. As you can imagine, there was a steep learning curve for me as a school board member, and I remain committed to doing the work to learn to serve our students, families, and staff better. I'm proud of the equity work we've done and continue to do. We've hired the first African-American superintendent in district history, and her perspective has been invaluable. With her input and expertise, we've implemented a very in-depth and robust strategic plan that is equity-based. And as a nurse practitioner, I feel that my perspective is very important, and I look forward to continuing this work if reelected. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's continue with your opening remarks. Christy, you kind of touched a little bit on what's your platform and agenda, but talk to us a little bit about what are you running on, what kind of principles, and how do you achieve that once you're elected?
Great. We have, I think, what we have done over the past year and a half, it'll be 2 years in December, will be, I think, the equity principles that we have implemented after this shutdown. We're looking at we've safely reopened schools. So from that, we have to consider the learning loss. We consider the things that children have gone through outside of that. So it wasn't just related to simply learning in the classroom, but also what may or may not have happened, the traumas and different things that happened when they were home. So I think being able to really support our children and our families, especially in our area. We have our area is compounded by, we have a lot of newcomer families, refugee families, and being able to help them succeed and thrive and give them the same chance that others in the district may get is extremely important to me. I love the newcomer center that we've opened. I think that that's going to be really beneficial. It's been amazing to see our 2 teachers at Riverbank teach those kids and help get them to a space where they will be able to integrate back into our schools and learn from there. Yeah, and so I really am proud of those things.
That's perfect. Thank you. Virginia, same question to you. As you're approaching your candidacy, what is your platform and how do you hope to achieve that once you're elected?
Well, definitely my platform, or what I would like to focus on, is reaching out to the staff, not just teachers, but also our classified staff, and reaching out to our parents and the community as a whole. And the reason that I'm saying that is because there's a lot that doesn't really get said. A lot of our parents are in the back, or they have those learning or language barriers, and so it becomes really difficult for them to express what it is that's going on. So what I'm hoping to do is be able to reach out, get the information that is out there to them, get the information to them so that they have the skills and everything that they need, so that they feel that they're empowered to be able to continue to be a part of their child's life, inside the classroom as well as outside, and also just be able to just continue to enrich them more than they already are. Definitely, that is my focus. Another area that I would like to work on is that the special needs programs. There are a lot of our children who have special needs, and not necessarily special needs in the sense of, I would like to say, there are the mental health issues as well, but there are children who have to be bussed out to other schools. It would be great to be able to have those resources here within our school district, where they don't need to go to a different school. They can have that at their home school. Give them those opportunities so that they can feel like they're a part of the community, their neighborhood, and not have to go somewhere else to get those things that they need. So that is definitely one of the things that I want to emphasize and work on while I am present.
Thank you. A question's going to come right back to you. You don't get breaks, but this will be, I think, a good follow-up for you. Tell me what you believe are the top 3 issues impacting Washington Unified School District.
Well, definitely special education is definitely one of them. The reason that I feel that is because, as I mentioned, a lot of our children are having to go to other schools that are not within their actual district site, or not district site, but in their area site. And so they have to go other places. And it's really important that we give those children and the parents, sometimes they have to go to one school to drop off their child, or have to bus them out to a different site, and then their other ones are in a different school. So they're not even with their siblings. So that's definitely one area that I believe is really important. The other is within District 1. I know we have our bus routes, and we have our kids that are over here on this side, and they have to go all the way to River City to get bused. And what I've noticed is that one of the issues that my son continuously runs into, and he just started, is that he's there on time for the bus, but as much as we'd make an effort to get our children to school, there's not enough room. So I noticed that he'll have to wait for a second bus to come and pick up the additional kids to get them to where he needs to be, which is to get his education. And I think it's really important that we help our bus drivers meet the needs to get them from point A to point B. That is definitely a concern that is important, that I feel is important within the school district. The other one is helping to get and maintain really qualified school teachers. We have a lot here, and not just school teachers, but also for classified staff, helping to be a competitive district. There's a lot of districts that are within driving distance. Being able to be a highly competitive district within driving distance, so that way we can provide them and want them to come here and stay here. That to me is really key and really important.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Christy, back to you. What are the top 3 issues facing Washington Unified School District?
Thank you. I think that learning loss is definitely up there. It's hard to rank them in top 3 because I think we probably have others, but I think that learning loss is absolutely one of them, and I think that is probably a given across the board. So I think, you hear about it across the country. My sisters are also teachers talking about different issues that they have in different schools, even in different areas. So it's great that we have such collaboration nationwide from our partners like CSBA and National School Board Associations, giving us professional development tools and other ways that we can now bridge some of these gaps. And I think equity is another big issue for our district. I love that we've hired our first incredible African-American superintendent who is very focused on hiring a staff that reflects the students. I think that we provide a lot of high quality training, and I think that we provide a lot of encouraging different programs to get kids up to where they need to be. I often talk about our Spanish dual immersion program. It's absolutely amazing, and I love that it isn't about giving other kids a leg up, but it's about getting rid of the inequities of the language inequities over the past however long. We've decided, okay, you speak a language, it should be English. No, let's bridge them. What other languages? What else can we develop and bring together? And finally, I think safety is an issue. I think that we have to really address that. And I hope that I have more time to go into that, because I think that there are a lot of ways to do that, and keep in mind our principles of equity.
I wrote down 6 different issues and items, so it's just very interesting to the vast challenges, of course, that are around the district. I want to follow up, Chrissy, this question is going to go back to you that Virginia kind of touched on, that we're seeing a national shortage of teachers. There was another element of being qualified, but really just overall understanding what's happening to our teaching population across the nation. Tell me how this is impacting your district schools, specifically in Area 1, and how would you propose to support teacher retention and recruitment?
Thank you. I love this question. It's a hard question, and I think that our teachers are exhausted. As a nurse, I know what it feels like to work very hard through a health crisis, and our teachers basically and our staff, not just our teachers, but our staff had to step in and be healthcare providers over the past 2 years, and it is what we had to do, but is it necessarily the best use of everyone's qualifications and education? I think what we now need to do is be able to support them through processing what they had to go through, and support them as well as our students in order to maintain, I think, some sense of, I still want to be a teacher, just like I still want to be a nurse. So I think that offering them time for professional development, maybe even just processing how last year was for you, processing what it would be like moving forward, and processing what we've been able to gain from this really difficult experience. I think that often you can look at, okay, what were we doing that now has to change, had to change with virtual learning before? How does that suit you and your needs? And then how does it suit the students? And how can we implement and incorporate all of those things to be able to make our district better? We also gave a generous raise. Money isn't everything, but it definitely helps. And this year, because of the COVID relief funding, we were able to give a very nice raise to our teachers and staff, which I feel very proud of. I think that, again, we can continue with the safety. We have to think about how teachers are feeling after some of the violence that we've seen over the past few years, too. I think it's all tied together, the mental health and the safety, and I think we just have to be very cognizant of it, and we have programs in place to be able to help with those, and I can talk more about those if there's another opportunity.
Got it. Great. Thank you for that. Virginia, back to you. Right? How is the teacher shortage impacting Area 1, and what would you do to help both support teacher retention and recruitment?
So one of the things that I've seen is that there are a lot of teachers that are currently in our schools. I'm going to talk specifically more about Riverbank in the sense that that is the school that I know, and that's also in District 1. I know that we have teachers there. I know that we have a lot of them that stayed, and that says something about those teachers because they're passionate, they're there, and they're supporting others. I know I see a lot of mentoring happening. I do see the student-teacher programs in the sense of, like, we have a master teacher, and that's awesome because then that shows that when you have a master teacher in your school, that shows that we're trying to get new teachers to be in this, in the system altogether. I do believe that there are some teachers that can definitely I used to be a school teacher. It's hard. It's hard being in a classroom. So I know that there are teachers who could use a break. And what I mean by break, it doesn't mean on vacation with that while they're in school, but definitely giving them that time. I know we have our Wednesdays where they get to have a minimum day, so they're away from the students, but giving them something that they could have outsourced, somebody coming in, giving them those tools that they need to help build more on what they have currently. Also, I just think that one other thing that we could do is outreach more. Definitely a lot more outreaching and showing that our teachers are what build our community, and they help. As we've said in the past, a village is what raises a child, right? It takes a village. And teachers are one of those many components that help to raise our children into becoming wonderful citizens of this country. So they're with them majority of the day. So they are like a second parent. Not the parent, but a second parent in the sense that they're helping them mold them into who they need to be. And they definitely need that support. And I think that that's something that we can do by reaching out to our teachers to get.
Thank you. You're welcome. So I'm going to stay on this theme because we really didn't talk about recruitment. Much of both of your comments were around retention, which I think is extremely important, but you actually acknowledge there's potentially some challenges around just staffing classrooms and making sure there's aides. So I'm going to kick it back to you, Virginia. Give us a sense of how you might work on the recruitment side, thinking about future years and future challenges.
Well, I think one thing that we could possibly do is look into our schools that are around. I went to St. Mary's College of California, and one of the things that we did was there was a Teachers for Tomorrow program, and it's still happening now. And it's a 4-year or 5-year blended, and what we could do is work with the colleges, find out what it is that they're doing, reach out to those recently graduated students and see, hey, I know you're brand new, but we got some great, and because honestly, those brand new teachers are the ones that are even more passionate because they know that what they want to do. They're in the classroom, they want it, and I think that that would be a great way and an opportunity to recruit. Hey, you just graduated? Come out and check out Washington Unified. We got some amazing teachers. We got some amazing kids all throughout North and South, south of West Sacramento, and I think that that would be a great opportunity for us to also work with our local colleges, and so that way we can include our students going to those colleges. If they want to be a teacher, some of these students going into high school already know that's what they want to do. So we can maybe have some type of collaboration there, and I think that would be really great in helping them develop those skill sets that they would need. Also, give them more of a realistic expectation of what it takes to be a teacher, because once you know, you're like, oh, there's not just 12 kids, there's could be a possibility of 30 kids. How do you handle that as a teacher who's been here for so many years, 30 plus years? What could I do? Those types of things are not always talked about, but it's definitely important to give them that. So those are some areas and some thoughts that I have in my wonderful brain of mine.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Christy, back to you. How would you help to support recruitment to the Area 1 school?
Thank you. I totally agree and second the pipeline. I think that is a really good idea. And that we actually do have relationships with some of our local colleges to be able to hopefully get some teachers in training over to our district. We also have a very competitive salary, and in fact, we were fully staffed at the beginning of this school year. So I am very proud of our HR team who worked very hard to be able to get those teachers and those positions filled. Retainment, I think is what we have to offer is that we offer these incredible programs like the, again, Newcomer Center to be able to integrate kids. We have the DI program. We have a ton of CTE pathways. I think it's really amazing that we promote our different courses, not just the path to college, but what is it that you want to do? So diving into what kids, I think it gives teachers and people a sense of purpose to be able to say, I'm helping someone do not what I was only trained to put them in, the path that I was trained to make them take, but I'm helping them take a path that they want to take, and I'm helping them to achieve their goals and thrive based on what it is that they want to do. We have a lot of really important programs. I think upgrading some of our school, giving our schools a facelift is important. I think it's very important to feel good about your surroundings. So with our Measure Z funding, we have the Master's Facility Plan looking at giving our schools a facelift, which is really nice. Okay, and I'll stop there.
You're both doing great. I know it's distracting to be told this is how much time you have left, but you're both doing great. All right, Christy, next questions, we're going to start with you. We are really fortunate in West Sacramento to have Second Base, a nationally recognized program that really looks to provide pathways for students to learn valuable skills that you were just referencing around future careers. How would you propose expanding the program to reach more students?
That's a good question. Well, we have our home run program as well, which I really love. I think encouraging kids to be able to have that funding for whatever it is that they choose to do is incredible. I also agree on the transportation issue with the North and the South. The kids definitely don't always have an excellent way to get from point A to point B, and that's been something that I've heard from a couple of people in the area, that it's not even about not having the transportation, it's about the travel time. And it's about when you leave your classroom in the high school to go to another area. Do we lose students? We might. Do we? I'm not exactly sure. We have these incredible pathways that I think we'll just continue to build on. We have the Culinary Institute, or the Culinary Arts program. We have a ton of different CT programs. Of course, when I was in high school, there was a lot of agriculture stuff, but I was a meat judger at one point. But here we have, true story, here we have a lot of different pathways, and I think if it's that you want to work with cars, we've got something for you. If you want to go to college, we've got something for you. I love that I've been able to go to it's called Building Foundations, and I've been able to go and interview students who are interested in, well, maybe they're not even sure yet, but as freshmen we get to do that. And then I think just really tapping into that and hearing what it is that they want and where they want to be. Maybe we could partner with other people in the community. We have a lot of good labor partners that are very excited about getting their hands on our kids and helping them with whatever course or pathway that they want to take. I think that's really, really cool.
Question over to you. How would you expand and create more access to the second base program?
Well, Christy kind of touched on it just a little bit. We do have a lot of labor partners who are interested in assisting, and not only assisting in the sense of like, let me be a trainer, but they want, or a teacher in that sense, but they want to be able to help them obtain like an AA and also build something that is actually here within the West Sacramento community, so that those students can later say, I built that. I had a hand in that. I helped create and rebuild West Sacramento to be what it is today. And so that is one area that I would like to highlight, that it is something that we definitely have coming forth. What else we can do is definitely work and build upon those skill sets like the culinary. I know my kid is going to be doing that next semester. And it's funny because I'm looking at him like, I didn't know this was something that you were interested in. So definitely having those dialogues with your kids to find out what it is that they are interested in, and maybe sometimes throw them in a course that they may not have known is something that they would want to do. I know that my son wanted to do leadership, and it wasn't something that was on his schedule, but then he was like, but I got this other thing. And I had no idea that I liked this until I was in it. So definitely giving them those opportunities to have some exposure to those other items definitely helps to broaden those pathways as well. So if he does not choose to go to college, which I'm hoping he does, but if he doesn't, I know that Washington Unified will prepare him for whatever it is based off of the CTE programs that we have here.
Well, coming from Raley's, we love the Bright Culinary School. Really proud of all the opportunities that it provides to put people into food. I'm so grateful for it. So tell him he can have a job at Raley's.
Got it.
But to that end, it's very important, especially, one of the reasons why I continue to participate in things like this is the importance between the business community and the school district. So tell me, what do you believe in terms of the relationship and how we can better work collaboratively together, and how would you envision a partnership with the business community to help these types of programs succeed?
Well, definitely a lot of these small businesses, as well as the large businesses such as Raley's, can definitely help our youth to find their path. Not all go into college like we've said. Some of them want to do more than that, or they want to follow the footsteps of their parents who are more hands-on in doing those types of jobs. And there is nothing wrong with that. And empowering them to know that that is a way that they can go. Working with these small businesses, I think, definitely will help and also promote West Sacramento as well, in the sense of we brought them up, these youth, to be well-rounded citizens, and also look, they're in Raley's, they're at the shopping center, they're working at Walgreens within the pharmacy or wherever it is, and just providing them with that sense of you don't have to go far to be successful. You can be here just as much as somebody who takes off and goes to New York and is in the Broadway show. We got Broadway close by, so anything is definitely possible, and I definitely believe that Washington Unified School District does provide a lot of those abilities and resources. I think that we can also continue to expand and elaborate on some of them more so than we already have. So definitely that.
I'm going to ask a follow-up question for you. How do you envision the business community supporting those types of things that you mentioned and getting students into whatever career path they choose?
Well, I think kind of like right now I work, or I should say I volunteer with the West Sacramento Bears. And one of the things that we do is we go out and we work with our local partners, or I should say local partners, but our local businesses, and see if they would help to sponsor and support. I think that's the same thing that we could do with the school district, and working and having a collaboration with those businesses to help find what their need is, kind of like the work. I remember back in the day we used to do student work, but we would be doing like you would get paid like a little internship, and it would be an actual class. I don't know if we still do that nowadays, but it would be something that would be probably very beneficial, because they're getting the school and learning what the small business is, or what it is that they do, or what it takes to run a business and to maintain it. So I think that that would be one way that we can go about doing that.
Great. Same question over to you. How do you envision the business community supporting the school district and, again, this variety of pathways that we've talked about?
I really have enjoyed. I'm a local business, a small business owner, and as a nurse, and I have really enjoyed getting to know a lot of the kids in our building foundations class, and really getting to know what their, again, hopes and dreams are and where they see themselves. Some of them say, I want to interview at Home Depot, and some of them say, I want to be a server, and then maybe I'll go into hospitality, or, they have a lot of different pathways. But I think what is beautiful about West Sac and how we are growing is that we've really done a nice job welcoming our small businesses or businesses that are large. I am hopeful that we will have a new one with music soon. Anyway, but I think that, like with the Girl Scouts, for example, we're able to partner with either different community members or different businesses, and find ways that we can come together to build community, make our communities stronger. So whether it's serving in a time of need or simply helping out at one of our gardens and providing food to one of the schools, something that is really hands-on for the kids is important. And then I think that just thinking about what it is that they really do want to do, and potentially partnering with the district to have opportunities available for our students to be able to participate as interns or as 16-year-old wage earners, when it's appropriate for them. I think those are some really good ways that our businesses can support our district. We also have our subcommittees. I think that when we do our 2x2s, it's very important that we reach out and say, hey, what are you experiencing in your community and in your business, and how is it that we can help you? Would you like high school students? Would you like mentorship programs to be available? I think those would be some good, strong relationships to build.
So this is a reminder to our Facebook viewers, please put your comments, themes, topics, things that are on your mind in our comment section. I'm going to give you our first question from our audience. Some believe there's a lack of student discipline and accountability, leading to out-of-control classrooms, interruptions to instruction. What are your thoughts, and what do you propose? I'm going to start with you, Christy.
Can you read I'm so sorry.
No, I kind of bumbled that one. All right. A lack of student discipline and accountability that's leading to out-of-control classrooms and interruptions to instruction. What are your thoughts, and what would you propose to change or support that?
I think that we have some safety issues surrounding our classrooms, and I think it's been difficult for kids to reintegrate into the classroom. I think that we need to always go back to our equity principles and think about how, as a team, as a district, what we want to be able to do is cultivate healthy relationships. I think that we need to we have our services. In fact, one thing that we haven't talked about is the United Way Planning Grant that we recently were given, and we are able to plan for the implementation of wellness centers across the district. So meeting kids where they are. We've hired extra community support workers, whether it's nurses or mental health staff, not clinical liaisons for students to be able to really feel embraced, and the whole family to feel embraced. And I feel like one of the things that, if this is happening in the classroom, is probably just that break that we took for so long, not just, but can be attributed to the break that we took for so long. And I think that a lot of the resources that we have with some of these mental health and wellness programs are something that we're going to have to lean heavily on in this time. I know that that is our goal as a district and as a board, and as a board, we work very hard on implementing those strategies and those principles to have our kids, to make sure that our kids are successful. And I think that there is more to say.
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up question, right? So you mentioned you've got some wellness grants. Those probably are not in perpetuity. So how do you kind of approach that and think about that from a budgetary perspective? What do you think is a necessary, long-term, consistent thing that maybe needs to be done? Maybe that might help lead you there.
I like it. I think that with this is a planning grant. This first grant that we had was a planning grant. Of course, we have different funding from our COVID relief dollars and then just funding in general that's changed this year. And I think that being able to, I think once we get the plan in place, being able to implement these wellness centers and to have staff that is committed to these positions long term, I think there is room for everyone. So I think when we look forward at how will we, and I don't know if you're asking like how will we maintain moving forward as this grant goes away. Yeah, well, definitely we have to maintain. I don't think we've ever done a good job in our country helping meet our kids where they are with difficult difficult growing up things, you know, whether it's a mental health or it's, there are so many different issues. So I think that this will be, okay. I think that having our outreach workers, having our mental health support systems, our clinicians being able to be there to help recognize issues when they are arising and getting these kids when they are young, because these are going to be our adults, right? We are forming who we are right now. So really meeting these kids where they are, and we often talk about restorative justice in our communities as well, like figuring out how we can meet our kids where they are and really mold them into empathetic, kind, caring adults who always want to learn and do better and build stronger communities. I think if our staff reflects that, then our kids reflect that, and there is a place for it, and we have to continue growing that way.
I'm going to give you a little extra time for this one. Clearly, this is a very important topic, so we're going to give you 2 minutes and 30 seconds. But again, given that there's a lack of student discipline and accountability that's leading to out-of-control classrooms interruptions, what are your thoughts on the topic, and how might you propose to fix it?
Well, I think definitely the pandemic had a huge factor in this, in the sense that a lot of our students don't know how to be around each other and don't know how to interact. And so we lost that empathy that we've had and the sympathy that we show towards each other. So what I am proposing to do, or what I would like to see happen, is at Riverbank, we have what is called the Ambassador Program. And that Ambassador Program helps our, kind of like our third and fourth graders, reach out and work with our first and first graders and so on and so forth. So they help conflict resolute issues, and they help with kids who may need a little bit more like that social interaction. Definitely starting off young and then working their way. But I think part of it is like, well, how do we stop what is happening now too? So one of the things that what I'm suggesting, or what I really think it would be a good idea, is yes, we're going to give our teachers those courses that they may need to, how do we with this type of issue that's going on, disrupting, how can we deflate the situation without having to disrupt the classroom more and disrupt the teaching, the flow of teaching. Giving them those resources. Also, hire more staff around, so that way they can monitor and they can assist when it needs to be happening. Having those, I don't want to call them walkie-talkies, but just having the access to be able to reach out to somebody whenever there is something to happen, instead of waiting a minute or two, they were there in an instant. To give them those resources. I definitely believe that our classified staff is low in numbers, and we need to give them more support and teach them how to engage with what's happening and the conflicts that are arising as well. So I think it's teacher and classified staff both working together, helping them know that they're both on the same team. It's not just, I'm a teacher and this is a yard duty. This is Riverbank. This is Westfield. This is Washington Unified School District.
I'm going to ask you a follow-up question, if I could stick with you on this topic. You talk about increasing classified staff. Tell us how you would propose to pay for that long term.
I know that there are some. I know that there are some funding that could help reaching out and looking into what the federal government has to offer. Definitely just looking into what we can do. I don't want to pull funding from someplace else where it's needed in order to meet that, but definitely look at what we have, find out where the gaps are, find out what it is that is being utilized and what has shown to be significant growth, and then maybe somehow allocate some of the areas that need to be fluctuated if at all possible. So yeah.
Thank you, Virginia. I'm going to stick with you because now we're on to you for the next question. Sorry, you don't get much of a break here. I've got two viewer questions we'll get to, but I've got a really important one I don't want to lose sight of here. You know, we've talked a lot about equity here. It's been a common theme, of course, over the last several years, especially, you know, to many of your points around the challenges around COVID have exacerbated it. Tell me what your recommendations are to create access and opportunity for those students who have been historically disproportionately underserved.
All right, so, well, first off, we need to know what it is that they're needing. Where is the gaps? Where is it that this certain site might need? Because from what I understand, that there are certain sites in the South that don't have internet. They have more internet issues versus the sites in the North. So to be able to give them certain things that they need so that we get the same outcome from our students. What I am proposing is that we assess, and I don't mean like take a test that's like the state exam, like benchmarks. Okay, where are we at? Get a baseline. Where is it that our students are starting? And then once we have that baseline, let's go ahead and do a benchmark. Are we meeting those needs? Are we able to get them to where they need to be? And then provide those ones that are not, this is no fault to the teacher. It's maybe there's something that they need more of. And let's provide them those resources that they need in order to make and help our students reach that benchmark. So we can do another benchmark. Are they meeting that? Yes, they are with the resources that we've given them, or maybe they're not. So let's find out where those gaps are, make sure we have those assessments so we can properly measure where it is that it's needed. So I really do believe that that will definitely help with understanding where it is that they need to go.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So Christy, back over to you. Same question. What are your recommendations to create access and opportunity for those students who have been historically disproportionately underserved?
I really appreciate this question. I think that a lot of what we are doing as a board currently to be able to provide different programs like our, I think one of the programs, in fact, a community member said this to me the other day, that we should have access to food for everyone. It shouldn't single people out. We shouldn't ask what your threshold is and whether or not you can afford to pay for a meal. Rather, let's just give food to the entire school. And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting because we do that. So I think it's great that we, as a Title I district, are able to provide access to food in that case. I think it's similar with our healthcare. I think creating healthy minds and healthy bodies is very important. I think that we, with some of our new programs, again, the Newcomer Center is one, resources like the YCCA and other community resources, we have many in WESAC that are willing and able to help. So I think being able to get people to a healthy space mentally and physically will allow them to be able to have better learning experiences. I also think that we've provided like access to laptops this year to a lot of students who otherwise wouldn't have had them. So all of our students got new laptops. That was a really amazing place. And then I also love our social emotional learning opportunities that we're doing right now for our kids. I think getting them again to a mentally healthy space and to a place where they can feel accepted and they can be as diverse as they want, but then also embrace each other's uniqueness is going to really help break down some of those barriers and encourage our kids to thrive, to be the best that they can and learn the best that they can.
All right, well, we are coming to a close here. So I've got a two-part question from the audience. I'm going to give you 2 minutes and 30 seconds for this question, and then we'll close out with your 2-minute closing statements. We're going to begin this one with you, Christy. Do you believe the district should revisit having an on-site officer at River City? Why or why not? And as a follow-up, what are the other proposed strategies to increase safety at our schools?
Good question. You said I have 2 minutes?
2 minutes and 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Okay, thank you. This is a really hard one, and this is one that is definitely personal. My family is living in Uvalde. We're from Boerne, Texas, but my niece and her dad live in Uvalde. He's a teacher, and she's in the high school. So that was a really difficult situation for us. So I just want to be clear that it isn't lost on me that we have really difficult experiences in our community, and it should not happen again, and we have to do everything that we can to prevent it from happening again. I feel very strongly that there are measures that we can take and that we have to take to move forward. I want to answer the question of revisiting a safety officer on campus. I think that we have other resources. I think that by revisiting it, we need to be sure that we have just, as far as I understand, the history was that we decided to do away with our safety officers on campus maybe, I think it was 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, and we have implemented other programs in the meantime to be able to support our students and identify who might be struggling, where and why, and I don't want that to be, those to just be words. I want the district to know and the community to know that this is hard work and this is very diligent work that we have done as a school board to be able to maintain safety, whether it is implementing barriers, whether, I know a lot of people have suggested that we get better fencing. I do think that that is probably a very good thing that we should consider very soon. I know badging in and out of the office, signing in and out of the office is very important. I'm not sure if we remember in Uvalde, there was no response for a very long time, and I don't know what that looks like here. So I think that we have to do our communities the best that we can and our kids the best that we can by providing them the supports and the resources that we are currently implementing. I think this work that we are doing is so incredible. We have spent hours and hours and hours figuring out how we can best support our students, and that is not just to make straight A's. It's to learn to be the best citizen, the best community, the most empathetic community member that you can be, and just to continue to build stronger communities. But we have to identify those needs. We have to identify those. That's first and foremost.
Okay. Following up, though, specifically, the question around proposed strategies. You mentioned badge in, badge out. You mentioned fencing. Are you supportive of all of those things?
Yeah.
All right, Virginia, we're back to you. So first question was, do you believe that the district should revisit having an officer at River City? And then again, more specifically, what might strategies you propose to increase safety at our schools?
So as far as a peace officer at River City, I am not actually sure, and I'm going to be honest, because maybe 3 years ago I would have said they don't need to be there. Because we have these resources, but maybe today, just depending, I think we should do a poll and definitely reach out to our parents. Would that make them feel safe? Because we do have resources in place, and we do have a lot of things for our students right now. But reaching out to our community and finding out, would that make them feel better knowing that they were on site? I think it's really important that we incorporate our community in decision making, and by allowing them to come and hear what they have to, or allowing them to come and speak on what it is that they have to say. Does this something that they really want? And I say that because ultimately it's their children, and it's really important that we hear how they feel about what would make make them feel safe about their students being on campus. What was the second part was what
strategies you would propose?
Specific strategies that I would propose to making the school safe. Yes, we already have the badging in and badging out. We have the gates around are all locked prior to. I know we had some in the beginning over at Riverbank. We had parents who wanted to drop off their children, and we're like, okay, you guys got to, stop at the fence because we need for them to be ready to transition into the rest of the day. Continuing those efforts, as well as, once again, reaching out to our community. What kind of other things do we need to do? Definitely for volunteers, having them fingerprinted, live scanned, doing background checks if we need to, doing more to know who it is that's coming in. I believe River City has now implemented a testing or taking a screenshot or of their license plates to catch anybody who can be considered a sex offender. So these types of things are important in order to ensure that our kids are safe while they're on any school site. I think is really important.
This is a brief follow-up. I know we're tight on time here. Is there anything specifically new that you would propose?
New. Because I'm like trying to figure it out. Like, well, we have this, and this is great. How more other than that? At this moment, I just want to strengthen what we have, and if things arise that are not working, then start working on those other areas that may not.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it. You made it to the end of the questions. You did great. So let's close out this session with a 2-minute closing statement. We'll flip the order, and we'll start with you, Christy.
Thank you. I wanted to use a little bit of my time. Is this okay to just talk about? Okay. Okay. I think one of our principles of equity, and going back to the safety issue, is that we ensure in our principles of equity, we want to, as a district, ensure that all of our staff, students, and families feel valued and accepted. And our students of color have told us that they don't feel safe with an officer on campus. And I think it's important that we hear that. And I think, again, it's important that we maintain and utilize even more of the resources that we have. And I think there are a lot coming down the pipeline. I thank you for this forum. And over the past 2 years, or 18 months, I have been able to serve as a board member. Before that, I was a parent volunteer, and I did a lot of things as a room parent, as a booster member. So this has really been something important to me, to be able to continue making the communities stronger and build the community for my children and all the children across the district. I've made a lot of incredible friends in West Sacramento, and I'm very happy to be here and to serve in this way. This is why I am committed to ensuring that all of our students have access to quality education and health services. I will continue to advocate for our kids and provide a safe and inclusive learning environment, and to eliminate disproportionalities to ensure that all students achieve the same high level of education. Thank you so much for this time.
Wonderful. Virginia, 2 minutes for your closing statement.
I'd like to thank you all once again for allowing us this opportunity to where we can share a little bit about who we are as individuals and where it is that we stand in a lot of your questions. Just want to reiterate, being here in West Sacramento and living here all my life, I reached out and done so much community work, from being with the youth football and cheer program, working with other boosters on the side, meeting with my fellow parents and getting to know some of the things that are going on. Definitely working and collaborating with some of my teachers, and I don't mean my teachers in the sense of even though some of my teachers are still here at, teaching at River City or whatever other school, but the teachers that teach my students, they have impacted not only them, but they've impacted me, and they've impacted so many others. And I want to continue to help get their message across, that they are important. The staff everywhere is important. Parents are important, regardless of what language they speak, speaking Spanish, speaking Russian, Farsis, whatever it is. I think that they also have a voice, and I would like to be able to continue to be that voice that they wish and want to have for them in the district. And so I am hoping that I've been able to answer their questions at the best of my ability and show that I will continue to be an advocate for West Sacramento in any capacity, whether I am elected or not. This is my town, this is my city. This is where I was raised, and this is where I'm going to continue to stay, and my kids will be here, and I will continue to fight for what is right for West Sacramento and its youth and its population. That is all.
Wonderful. Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Virginia, both for being here, for providing such thoughtful answers. And more than anything, thank you for your commitment to serve our community. We're very lucky to have both of you here tonight. For our online viewers, this brings us to the end of our first forum. Do not go anywhere. We have 3 more to go. Up next will be Washington Unified School District Area 5, featuring Preston Jackson and Sarah Kirby Gonzalez. Please join us after this short break. Good evening, and welcome to the West Sacramento's 2022 Candidates Forum, presented by the West Sacramento Chamber of Commerce. I'm here just to give you a brief reminder of the rules for tonight's forum. First and foremost, this is not a debate. We intend to ask our candidates thoughtful questions and get thoughtful answers. We also will ensure that the candidates are given the same amount of time and are switched, who goes first and who goes second for each question. We want the viewers at home, all of you, to be able to draw contrasts between the two candidates. We're going to ask all of our candidates to be very specific in their answers, and I, as the moderator, will reserve the right to ask follow-up questions as I see fit. For all of you at home, though, we also encourage you to be a part of this discussion. So if you have questions for the candidates, please put it in the chat. Our team will do the best to gather the themes and overall comments, and we'll be asking the candidates questions towards the end of each session. Thanks for being here tonight, and we look forward to a great discussion.
Hello, West Sacramento residents and business leaders. My name is Jesse Salinas, and I am the Yolo County Register of Voters. It is an honor and privilege to welcome you to the West Sacramento Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum. Yes, it is election time again, with the 2022 general election coming up on Tuesday, November 8th. Yolo County officially became a Voters' Choice Act county in March, which means voters have more ways and more days to return their ballot. In West Sacramento, ballot drop boxes are available from October 10th through 8 p.m. on election night on November 8th, and are located at City Hall, Nugget Market, and State Food Supermarket, formerly Artiegas. The City Hall ballot drop box is an exterior drop box that is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Interior drop boxes are available during the store's regular business hours. In West Sacramento, City Hall Galleria rooms are available for 11 days as a vote center. It will be open Saturday, October 29th through Monday, November 7th, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And on Election Day, November 8th, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Additional vote centers will be open for 4 days in West Sacramento at Bridgeway Lakes Boathouse, at Bright CCT as well. These locations will be open from Saturday, November 5th to Monday, November 7th, also from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And on Election Day from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. At vote centers, voters can return their vote by mail ballot and register and vote regardless of where they live in Yolo County. Don't forget to register and let your voice be heard this November. For more information, visit us on social media or at our website, yoloelections.org. Thank you for being an engaged voter.
Good evening and welcome back. We've transitioned here at Springfield Suites, and we're ready to move on to our next forum. This will be featuring two candidates from Washington Unified School District Area 5. Area 5 represents the south area of town, including Southport and schools like River City High School. I'd like to officially welcome our two candidates, Preston Jackson and Sarah Kirby Gonzalez. Welcome. I appreciate you both being here tonight. I'm going to get started. We're going to jump right in and start with opening statements. Each of you will have 2 minutes to introduce yourselves to our online audience and provide a little bit of background about yourself and explain why you're running for Washington Unified School District Area 5. Prior to this evening, I've randomly selected who would go first, and we're going to begin with you, Preston.
All right. Well, thank you so much. First of all, I want to thank the Chamber for hosting this amazing event. It's my second time participating, and this is always something that I know that the community looks forward to. For those of you who don't know, my name is Preston Jackson. I am running for Washington Unified Area 5. And for me, I think my background is real simple. I'm running because I shouldn't be running, because in reality, I probably shouldn't even be here. Growing up in South Sacramento with a single mother, at one point in time being a D- student in high school, going on to graduate from UC Davis, getting a master's degree from Sac State, getting a teaching credential, becoming a teacher, a union rep, a father of 3 lovely, beautiful young daughters that attend schools here in our district. All that should not happen. But the reason why I am here and the reason why I am running, because throughout my life, I have had people who have seen something in me, who saw things in me that I didn't see in myself. Those were teachers, those were administrators, those were school staff folks who took an interest in me because they believed in me more than I believed in myself at the time. And if it wasn't for those folks, I wouldn't be here. And so the reason why I'm running, because I am a child like the children in Washington Unified. And I set the example that I know that if I can achieve the things that I've achieved, that there's no reason in the world that our children in Washington Unified cannot achieve like things if given the opportunities, if provided the resources, and if provided the proper avenues and direction.
Thank you. We'll move to you, Sarah.
Thank you, and thank you also to the Chamber for doing this, and for you, Chelsea, for giving your time as a moderator. For those who don't know me, I am Sarah Kirby-Gonzalez, and I am the proud mother of a 3rd grader and of a 6th grader. I am a teacher who has been in the classroom now for 19 years. I also run a national board facilitator program helping educators in our region to reach the highest certificate possible in the teaching profession. I am proud to have been raised by parents who taught me that you should find a way to give back and make this world better. And for me, that has been meeting the needs of students and in education. And so I've dedicated my career and my professional time to doing just that. I'm very proud of what is happening in Washington Unified and the work that we have done since I've been on the board in these past 9 years. I reduced my teaching contract to 20% when I was first elected so that I would have the ability to volunteer, to be on our campuses, and to see firsthand what is happening and how our policy in the boardroom makes a difference for kids. We have done our dual immersion program, our middle college program, stronger partnerships with the business community, and in terms of our internship program. So a shout out to the Chamber and all of those in the Chamber who have taken on student interns, and also who are on our Pathways programs and who help in our advisory board in that role as well. We have a lot of work to do though still. We have, for the first time ever, an equity-minded strategic plan that is building on our prior strategic plan but going deeper to help all of our students, and it's one that they're talking about really around the country, and I'm really proud of the work happening here and what's to come, and that's why I'm running for school board, to continue the work that we're doing.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Sarah, we're going to start with you with the first question. Can you share with me what you believe are the top 3 issues? I'm going to ask you to focus specifically on Washington Unified School District Area 5, so the schools in your district.
Well, the issues that affect the schools in my district have a lot of themes that go into the district all over. And one has been, I'm very, very proud that when we opened our classrooms this year, that we had an educator in every single classroom, and that was not the case in districts around us. There has been not a teaching shortage, there's enough teachers with credentials, but a shortage of people who are willing to be in the classroom right now. And so I'm proud of that work. But a lot of the teachers we have are newer teachers. And so we now need to really work to support our teaching staff, our newer teaching staff, and also work to support our veterans so that they stay and feel supported. And our classified staff, we still have openings, and that's a challenge here as it is in many places. And so we've been working hard on how to recruit. We've been working to give competitive salaries. We have a strong relationship with our labor partners. But that is an area that we need. And I was at Southport and Stonegate and Bridgeway, which are in this neighborhood, all talking about the need for campus supervisors and others to help us. Okay, next one, moving on. So social emotional supports, we've worked hard to invest in our kids in the last 2 years have been really hard. I see it as a mom, I've seen it as a teacher with students, and I've seen it as a board member. And so the areas that we need to continue to focus are in supporting our kids emotionally and also their families. And so we have right now rolling out our positive parenting workshops and others. Oop, and I need to get to that last one, so I'm going to keep moving. And the last one that I would say that we need to work on is really, now that we have the strategic plan, making sure that we do it. And so what are our metrics and how are we going to be held accountable to the community to make sure that the strategic plan that they helped us create is executed and done well for our students.
And just for reference for me and our viewers at home, that's this equity-minded strategic plan that you mentioned in your opening statement.
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, Preston, same question over to you. Share with me what you believe are the top 3 issues facing the students and schools in Area 5.
Great question. And I'm glad to hear that the equity work that we started when I was on the board, and particularly last year when I was board president, is continuing to an extent. However, there are still some equity issues that are not being addressed in our schools and with our children. And that particularly, it deals with equity when it comes to our children with special needs and disabilities. We started some work when I was on the board in terms of moving towards inclusion in our district to really provide extra resources and provide a co-teaching model to help support and to help advance our students with disabilities and the students with special needs. Unfortunately, that work has not continued. That's something that I believe that's a very big problem, because it's not just a problem with Area 5, it's a problem throughout the district, because special education needs throughout the district are at an all-time high. That's number one. I agree. We need to be able to recruit and retain highly qualified teachers that are reflective of our community, because we have a lot of newer teachers, because we had a lot of teachers that left. At my daughter's school last year, they lost their entire 5th grade teaching team that moved either to different positions or to different schools or to different districts. So we need to be able to provide avenues and have a strategic plan to be able to retain and recruit highly qualified teachers. And lastly, we have got to improve our secondary education. We are losing students by the droves once they get into the middle school years, and particularly and into high school, because they're leaving our district, because our district does not provide the type of educational experience in middle school and in high schools that our families want. Our families want more robust, more vigorous or rigorous type of instruction in those middle transitional years. And if we don't fix that, then we're going to continue to bleed students to neighboring districts or surrounding districts that have those types of programs.
Thank you. I'm going to stay with you, Preston, and really let's narrow in. You both mentioned equity. I think you both have some differing thoughts, but the important piece is really creating access and opportunity for those, especially those that have been historically disproportionately underserved. So tell me what particular recommendations you would make, Preston, to ensure that those in that community would be represented across the district now and into the future.
Well, first thing is we need to identify exactly what those issues are, because I think everyone could agree that the issues in terms of access and equitability now are a lot different than what they were pre-COVID. And so if the work has not already been done to be able to identify what those needs are, we need to start there, because it doesn't make any sense for us to go out and throw money at a problem if we don't know exactly what it is that we're trying to fix. So let's say with the inclusion that I mentioned at the beginning. Research has shown that students with disabilities do well and they exceed. I've experienced it firsthand working at an inclusion site in Sacramento at my school. We've been an inclusion site for 16 years. And be able to watch children who are special, who have an IEP or on the autism spectrum, to be able to come in and then in the span of 1 year make dramatic increases, where you have a kid who couldn't hold a conversation to then a year later, they're coming back and having a conversation with you as though they didn't have any disabilities, okay? Those are all things that need to be addressed. So how do we do that moving forward is the question. Now, do I profess to have all the answers? Absolutely not. But we need to be willing to do the work and spend the time necessary to get to the root of the problem so we can help address those needs.
I'm going to ask you a follow-up question. You talk about identifying the issues. How might you go about doing that?
Probably the best way is most common way is to do some sort of a needs assessment. First of all, we identify who those students are, find out what those particular needs are, okay? and then develop a plan. And a lot of times it's on an individual basis where we then develop a plan to help plot a path for to ensure that student success.
Thank you so much. All right, same question over to you, Sarah. What are your recommendations to create access and opportunity for those students that we know have been historically disproportionately underserved?
Thank you. I want to address the inclusion model, which is so important. And on July 28th, on our board agenda, you'll see that we approved the co-teaching model training, and it's working currently at Stonefield, Westfield, and River City. And it will be rolling out to all of our schools here. And so I absolutely agree with the inclusion model, and that's why we're working hard to make that happen. In terms of hiring workforce that represents your students, Thursday at our board meeting, if you tune in, you will see that we're having aspiring leaders group that is now beginning, where the district is working to hire a workforce that looks like our student population. And so I'm excited for that presentation and what is to come. There is definitely work to do in terms of finding out where we have student needs. And I was at River City recently and sat down with the principal, and they were going through their math numbers. Our math scores are not where we want them to be. And so specifically that is what they are going through, and we have a math task force that is rolled out in our district as well to address the needs across our school sites and how we can ensure that our students are prepared for college or career when they leave us. And keeping with the equity talk, we have equity audits that are going on throughout our schools. We have people that have come in to help us do this work, and I'm very proud of that, and to look and find out where are the needs and help us make sure that we have a very, very close lens on what we can do better. And at our special board meeting we just had, you can see our schools. There's an example of one of our scorecards as our principals really dig into this data, and they see how are we doing and hold ourselves accountable to make sure that we're doing better in those places. So lots of work happening and lots of work to be done.
Let me ask you a follow-up, if I could. You know, you cited a lot of wonderful things that are moving forward. Is there something that you would recommend that would be new and different?
I think right now, with the capacity of everybody that we have a lot of new things happening. We have a superintendent who has been here now for over a year, but through this hard time of coming back through our COVID pandemic. And so and we have some new board members. We have a lot of new things happening. We have new director of equity, actually, that's happening right now. And so I think right now, more than add more new, we need to do all of these pieces that are rolling out this school year, and we need to do them really well.
Great, thank you for that. I'm going to stick with you for the next question. We talked a lot in our last session with Area 1 around learning loss, right? The unintended consequences of COVID and our students being out of the classroom. Knowing that put our students at a disadvantage, how do you believe we help support them to catch up to all their academic levels?
Sure. I'm going to push back a little bit on the term learning loss, because that implies that our students actually lost learning, and our students learned a lot this time, but it wasn't necessarily what we were hoping for or what we were expecting. Our data supports that we haven't had huge losses, but we haven't had the gains that we've wanted. And so that's where I want to focus, is how we can give our kids what we need to get them where we want them to be. And so math has been one right now. Math is an area that we're seeing our scores lower than we wanted them to be, and where they're honing in. I will also say, though, the social emotional piece, and as an educator, I felt that more than the academic piece. My students, my own students, made big gains last year academically, but socially we had to back up and work on, how do I play a game of kickball and not walk away upset and throw the ball and get mad? How do I work through personal connections with my peers? And so I think one of the most critical areas after this very challenging time for all of us is really supporting students on the emotional piece to their learning. Because if you are not emotionally ready and prepared to be at school, then the academics will falter. But the math is the piece that we know we need to work on as a district. And then, of course, every student, we need to dial down on where they are and where we want them to be, and focus on the whole child piece.
Great, thank you. Same question over to you. As we think about the last 2 years and any gap that exists in our academic or social learnings, how might you tackle that, and how do we help our students catch up?
Again, I would like to, I think it's important to understand that in order to be able to address any problem, you need to know what the problem is. You know, and I will kind of concede a little bit to Trustee Gonzalez in that when you refer to the learning loss, well, exactly what does that mean? What does that look like? And how is that affecting students? Okay, I think that's a term that became very popular during the pandemic. Well, we have to address learning loss as a way that people kind of use to address a problem that may or may not have existed. Does it exist? Okay, and if it does, how do we tackle it? And I think moving forward, once those problems are identified, again, through proper planning, proper instruction, it's basically meeting or teaching the whole child, which is what we should be doing anyway. Not only addressing students' academic needs, but also addressing students' social and emotional needs, meeting kids where they are, because as I think the thing that we overlook is that the pandemic was a very traumatic event for our students. How are we helping our students to deal with that trauma? How are we helping them to work through that traumatic event and be able to move forward? I think when returning to live instruction for me last year, that was probably one of the most challenging years of teaching that we have ever had, because we had students who did not know how to have interactions with each other. But now, whereas a year removed, after having been placed back into that environment, now all of a sudden you see the friendships and the camaraderie and the working together and things like that is back in place. So we need to be able to provide students with the supports and the direction and the proper instruction that they need in order to be able to get to that place in terms of educating the entire child and not just worrying about one focus area.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm going to shift a little bit to budget spending. We know that our city residents approved Measure Z that authorized the district to issue up to $150 million in general obligation bonds for school facility improvements, constructions, and modernization. Since its passing, start by telling me, what is your opinion on the success to date? And a secondary follow-up question might be, what would you recommend would be the next step?
Great. Well, the thing that I'm very proud that we did before we even put Measure Z on the ballot was that we developed the facilities master plan, because that actually helped us to be able to identify where the resources were most needed in our district. Okay, and once we did that, we came up with the number. Because a lot of times, I think I've seen things online, and people are like, "Whoa, there's too much Measure Z." But I think what people don't understand is that Measure Z was never intended to fix all of the issues in the district. We developed the facilities master plan so that we had a guidebook in place that would be able to help us to guide us into how that money is going to be allocated, should be allocated. Now, when we talk about equity, equity does not mean equality. And so when it comes to Measure Z and how those funds are allocated, they may have to be allocated in a way that's not equal, and that maybe our schools on the north side of town that have been neglected for the last 50 years may need more maintenance and more upkeep and to be brought up to speed to some of the schools on the south side of town. And I think it's important for people to realize that was never intended to be a cure-all. It was more or less trying to put a Band-Aid on a bulging wound that's been in existence for a very long time. And so that's just kind of the nuts and bolts of it.
So just a follow-up question, is there any particular school project thing that you would say, you know what, this needs our immediate attention?
Well, boy, you asked me to go into the memory bank on that one. I know from walking around the different campuses and things like that, just general maintenance stuff that had been neglected over the years. Holes in gutters, leaky roofs. We have schools on the north side of town that have single pane windows where it's impossible for them to keep the classrooms cold or warm in the winter and cold in the spring and the summertime, and especially with us starting school in August. So those types of projects are probably things that I think we need to take the center stage to addressing the most immediate needs. You know, and I don't proclaim to know what the board has done in terms of the direction they've chosen to take with the facilities master plan that we developed in 2019, 2020. But it's there, and it can be followed if chosen to be.
Great. Thank you so much. Sarah, same question to you. How do you believe that, Measure Z funding has been utilized to date, and what would be your priority moving forward?
Perfect. I'm very proud of the work we've done, and Measure V, which was a much smaller bond, really helped lay the foundation for this in terms of gaining our community's trust and being transparent with the money, and that helped us with the remodel of Westmore Oaks. And so we weren't able to do a ribbon cutting because of COVID, but gosh, we still need to do that, and to get your chamber members on too to see what we're doing there. But now, moving forward with Measure Z, which the voters overwhelmingly approved, and we do need more bond oversight committee members. We have a meeting Thursday night. Again, will be on the agenda, and so folks can tune in and look. We have members of that oversight committee that are from the business, that are from the Taxpayers Association, parents, and many others. So if anybody is interested, this is my call to action. But in terms of what that's doing, we've done a really good job of utilizing all of the money we can to save our taxpayers money and to make it stretch as far as it will go. So at immediate need, water bottle filling stations that are coming in on all of our campuses. Unfortunately, those have already been approved with some other funds that we're working on, but there's supply chain issues, so we have challenges right now, like so many. But what is going to be happening is Westfield and Elkhorn, and that is in alignment with the facility master plan. Those schools desperately need a remodel, as Westmore Oaks did, and they will be getting it, and I'm thrilled about that. And then the other thing that we need so badly, our community has rallied for, they have asked for, and they've been very patient on, is our VAPA Performing Arts Center. So those are our three big goals, but we're working really hard to address all of those other needs as well. Water bottle stations, the gutters, and all of those things that help ensure that we have a safe facility for our kids. But it's really been unacceptable to the board, and I appreciate Mr. Jackson as well for all of the work that he did to help us pass that bond and make our facility master plan, because it is being followed and it is an important tool to show our kids that we care about them.
Great. Thank you both. This is a reminder to our Facebook viewers. Please add your questions, comments, some themes or things that are topics that are hot on your mind, and we would be happy to ask our candidates those questions. On our last forum, we had a lot of conversation on our comments about safety, and you mentioned safety more from an infrastructure perspective, but we know the unfortunate challenges that are happening across our nation as it relates to student safety when they're on campus. So Sarah, this question is for you to start off with. What proposed strategies will you have to increase school safety?
Well, some of those pieces, as we spoke to, were emotional safety as well, and we're working to, again, capture grant funding and work. We have a community schools partnership. We're putting in wellness centers on our campuses as well, so that we just have spaces where students can come and to be heard if they need to meet with a counselor. We have counselors on all of our campuses. I'm very proud of the social team that we have built up with counselors, psychologists, outreach specialists who really know our kids and can do this work with them. And so that is one really critical piece, is if a student is in crisis, that we address that right away. And then in terms of the spaces, we, since I've been on the board, we did have a third-party vendor come in and help us with our safety plans at every single school, look through them, what's happening with fencing and others. So for example, at River City High School, thanks again to the Measure V bond, we put in breakaway gates to get out. That was a recommendation to keep our kids safe. But now we also have the back gates so that students are not leaving campus regularly or close. And it's critical that we have a strong partnership and relationship with the West Sacramento Police Department. They are our partners in this, and our team meets with them regularly. There are times where Ed Code dictates that we must have a phone call with our police department to come out and address a need, and we want to make sure that we're proactive in that as well, and that we're supporting students before that there's a problem with them. And so there are regular meetings happening with that. I had been supportive. I felt like we had a very strong model for an SRO in our district, and who was doing it well and doing it right. We don't want just anyone, but we had a good model, and And I am feeling like we're missing that a little bit.
Thank you. Preston, same question over to you. What types of strategies would you put forth for the district to consider when we think about safety?
Well, I think when we think about safety, it's important to recognize that it was just not physical safety that we have to deal with. Physical safety is absolutely 100% paramount. It should be. So to prevent things that we've seen in the news happening in our district. No one ever wants to make that phone call, be the next school that's a part of that. But I think the thing that we're not addressing is the emotional safety of children, in addition to the physical safety. My own family, I've had own family members who attend River City High School who are victims of an extreme violent episode at the high school last year. But then I also have friends who know of children who have chosen to leave our district because of the emotional violence, either overt racism, sexism, anti-gay, lesbian rhetoric and discussions like that and conversations, things like that directed towards them on campus that haven't been addressed and that aren't being addressed because we're not addressing the emotional safety of our children, which is just as important. I think what we need more folks that are able to identify and to help support our LGBTQ students, our transgender students. We need someone that can be able to work, additional social workers or school psychologists on campuses to be able to not only work with our students who may be in sort of an emotional type of a situation, an emotional need, to be able to address those issues. Trustee Gonzalez talked about the SRO model. Yeah, we had a fantastic SRO, but what we did when we decided to eliminate that position in the district when I was on the board, we did it because we felt that the need was greater not to subject our students to further emotional trauma because, as we all know, students of color, families of color don't necessarily have the best relationship when it comes to law enforcement. And so when you place them in an environment where they're supposed to be safe, but then you place something in that environment that may be triggering for them, that's one of the reasons why we elected to dismantle that model and allocate those resources elsewhere.
Great, thank you. Preston, next question is for you, and you actually brought this up in an answer previously around priorities when we're talking about investment, and that Washington Unified School District recently, last few years, went into districts. And that changes, right? So voters that are voting for you in Area 5, but really, how do you balance the needs of Area 5 versus the entire district? And understanding, to your point, you really brought up a great synergies around maybe schools in other districts have a greater need in the short term versus long term. How would you approach that as a board member? Very simple, communication. I mean, it's not rocket science. I think the way to eliminate any kind of issue with that is by being 100% transparent. Transparency is the key. You can't leave things open to interpretation. You can't leave things open to allow someone else to put their own what they think might be taking place into a situation. Whereas if the more transparent we are with our community and more transparent we are with our constituents, I think the more receptive they would be. So say, for example, if it was determined that $48 million of the Measure Z funds need to be spent on the north side of town, but only $2 million need to be spent on the south side of town, that needs to be laid out explicitly so that people understand, look, this is why we're doing this. Because these schools have been neglected for 50 years. We had opportunities where, when Southport was being developed, where we could have maybe held some of the developers accountable for helping to pull up some of the schools on the other side of town. But that opportunity was lost. And so now we're trying to play catch up. So I think if you communicate with people and you lay it out and so that they're in no uncertain terms, so they understand this is why we're doing what we're doing, so they can understand the thought process behind it, so they can see the reasoning. They don't necessarily have to agree with it, but as long as they understand, hey, this is our thought process behind what we're doing, this is the reason why we're doing this, this is what we think is in the best interest of not just the students in Area 5, but also for all the students in West Sacramento. Because ultimately, my students in Area 5 are going to have to go to high school with the students in Area 1, Area 2, Area 3, Area 4.
And if I'm coming from Area 1 and I see that my friends in Area 5, they went to a school and had more resources than that, now all of a sudden now we're creating other issues where we didn't need to have issues. So transparency is the key.
Great, thank you. Sarah, same question over to you.
Okay. Can you repeat it for me?
Yes, it's my chicken scratch notes here, but yes, really thinking about moving from at-large to districts, and how do you balance the needs of the entire school district versus the needs of those that will be voting for you in November?
Perfect, thank you for that. I think when we really dig into our student data and we make sure that we have a student advisory committee, that we listen to our classified staff, our certificated staff, and hear their needs, then that is really key to, again, being transparent with our data, as was said, and to say, here is where our needs are. For example, we had to make cuts a few years ago. Thankfully, we're not in that place now. And we knew that we needed to cut some reading specialists, and it wasn't anything that any of us wanted to do. Where are we going to cut them? Well, we weren't going to just cut one from every school site, because that was not necessarily going to be what was right for kids. So we dug into the data. What does our student need? Where does it show we need the most supports? And then make sure that that is where they're protected and where they're kept. And in that situation, there were cuts made at the schools that are in the district that I represent. And I will do that vote again many times if I needed to, because I am on the board to serve and ensure that we give all of our students what they need. And if there is a higher need outside of our area, then I think it's critical and important. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night unless we were doing that. But digging into the student data is what we need to do, not just go off of perceptions, and make sure that we're really listening to our employee groups who are on the ground, our kids that are on the ground, and their recommendations as well when we make our decisions.
Wonderful, thank you so much. When I asked what your 3 top issues are, you mentioned that you had an educator in every classroom, but that you had there was a need for the district to have classified staff. So just talk me through how you would approach teacher retention, maybe classified shortage, if you wouldn't describe that it's a teacher shortage, but how are you working to maintain this not only today but into the future?
Okay, so both certificated and classified is what I'm hearing that. Okay, so in terms of our staffing, first and foremost, we need to make sure that we have competitive salaries, which we have worked very hard to do. We had agreements before we went into the summer. We were one of the first districts to have agreements with both our certificated and our classified employees to have competitive wages. And we need to continue to look at that and keep a pulse on it so that we ensure that, that we are paying our folks a salary that makes them proud to come to Washington Unified versus right down the street somewhere else. In terms of how, where we really focus, we have a great BITSA program. For those who don't know, that's how to support beginning teachers. And so I'm very proud of that program. We have others actually come to our program from the charter schools or private schools, and that's been a really good place to help retain our staff. And then our veteran teachers, who are those ones that it was the hardest year last year, in terms of keeping them here, what do we need to do to make sure that their needs are met? And we just need to listen. We need to listen. What do you need? How can we support you? And hear from them there. Our classified employees, that challenge is the work hours are really tricky sometimes. If you are, for example, our crossing guard, or if you are a bus driver, it's perfect, for those listening, for anybody who is retired and wants to get out there and be involved. Our crossing guard at my daughter's school is retired, and he's out there with a big smile supporting kids. Or if you want to have flexible work hours if you're a student, or if you want to be home more with your kids. But that is one where we need to, again, listen to the people doing the job. What do you need, and what will help you stay here? And doing that regularly, I think, is the best way to keep them here and continue to offer, when needed, salary enhancements to come and work for us.
Great. Preston, same question back to you. As we approach teacher shortages or classified staff, how will you work to both retain them and recruit new people?
Well, for me, I think the primary thing that I would want to propose, first of all, is if we're going to offer salary increases, attach them to the salary schedule, and not necessarily giving 1% increases or 2% increases that aren't attached to the salary schedule, that are off the salary schedule, which they're great for the year in hand, but it doesn't really help anyone further down the road. Now, being a teacher who just went on strike last year for 8 days, I can tell you, I wasn't striking because of money. I was striking because of the attack that my district was trying to make towards our benefits. Benefits, in a lot of ways, are much more important for our staff, teachers and classified and certificated alike. Not only that, so we need to be able to provide a way where we are able to provide a better, more competitive benefit package to our staff. In addition to that, we need to be able to. Folks need to feel as though they're wanted, that they're appreciated, because I think the mindset is that, well, if we just paid people more, they would stay, which isn't the case, because we all know people who have gone. I know people who have left districts and taken less money because they were going to a district where, as a staff and as a community, their district valued them. Their district showed that, hey, you know what? We trust your opinion. We want to work with you as teachers, or we want to work with our staff to be able to help you guys provide the type of education and learning environment that's in the best interest of our kids. So money's not everything, but when we can provide that, show our staff that, you know what, that they're valued, they're appreciated, they're wanted. A lot of times that makes up for the lacks of things that in terms of pay and benefits that we cannot offer because of the size of our district.
Great. Thank you. This question comes from our Facebook viewers. Thank you for those that have been commenting. Preston, we're going to start with you again. With several new housing projects in the works in the Southport area, how do you see this impacting our schools, and what will you do to ensure our schools can accommodate those new students? Right, yeah.
There's one that just went in right around the corner from my house. And it's going to have an impact. And with the proposed apartments that are supposed to be going in on down Jefferson, it's going to impact our schools even more. I think one of the things that we need to do is that we need to. I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Repeat the question real quick, and I'll make up for it.
Just given all the new housing that's coming in, how will we ensure that our schools are not over-compacted and that we can accommodate the new students?
Okay, and thank you. Mm-hmm. I know part of the facilities master plan, there is a proposal for there to be another school built in the Southport area, or in the south side of town. Whether or not that's going to be a comprehensive middle school or another elementary school or a K-8 model, we don't know. But that's there. But I think it's important that as we move forward, that we have got, and there's not much that the district can do in terms of putting pressure on builders and developers to be able to do that. That has to come with the collaboration with the city. And so if we can get our city partners to work with us and try and help provide either incentives or avenues for the developers to try and make improvements to the schools that project is going to be impacting, is one way to do that. And then it actually, and in all honesty, one of the things that what may actually help alleviate that is to possibly reconsider the K-8 model that we have, because now all of a sudden, if we have a comprehensive middle school in our district that we used to have, and I understand why it was done away with, but instead of having resources spread it throughout 8 or 9 campuses for grades 7 and 8, if we can put all those resources on one campus, that is possible, a way that could possibly help alleviate some of that.
Great, thank you. Sarah, same question back to you. With several new housing projects in the works, specifically in the Southport area, how do you see this directly impacting the schools, and how do we ensure that those students are accommodated?
Great, thank you. Since I was first elected, I remember watching buildings go up and having a moment of, oh my gosh, where are these kids going to go? And calling what does our demographer say? The demographer says we're okay. But again, so the district, I should back up a little bit. We do regular studies with a demographer to show how many students we perceive will come from a new housing development. And it's sort of a guess though, right? Because kids do not come, unfortunately, in perfect little packages of class size in their neighborhoods, which would make our lives a lot easier here. And so we look very closely at what our demographers tell us, but then also our student enrollment. Our student enrollment actually right now is a little higher than it was and than we projected it was. So our student enrollment has gone up by a little over 100. But we keep a close pulse on both of those numbers. And the point of working with the city is really essential. This is one of those places where we have to have the school district voice with the city in terms of what are the impacts of new facilities onto our existing schools. Currently, we're okay. You know, people will call me and say, I don't think the high school can serve more. We can. Our capacity is higher, and we will be okay there. But it is just knowing that we have that very close pulse on it and a close relationship with the city and the city planners as they approve more buildings. And we do have space for some new schools. The school district does own land for that, but that is not within our short-term plan. That's a long-term plan.
Understood. Thank you so much. So we've talked a lot about resources, programs, all the things that our students need for ultimate success. Personal question for you. Do you feel like the district is adequately funded? And if not, what would you do to propose additional funding or potential cuts to provide new resources or opportunities?
Is that to me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay.
sorry, yes. Sorry,
Okay. So I think the point that we just heard about one-time money, we've gotten a lot of one-time money, which has been a lovely gift, but that's very hard for planning. And so it's true that we gave our employees one-time benefits, which does not impact your, say, retirement the same way. So on schedule is great to be able to do. If we had, instead of these one-time monies where we're constantly waiting to see what will the governor sign, what will come in, because we don't know what that will be, that would make it a lot easier for schools. The recommendation we're working hard for is we need to be funded with our with how many students we serve, not with our ADA of who shows up every single day. Because that's incredibly unfair to school districts, because if a student over here is sick tomorrow, we still have to run the electricity, we still have to have a teacher in the room, we still need that funding. So being funded on the number of days that students are enrolled is unfair, I feel like, for school districts. So are we adequately funded? I will never say yes. I think we haven't been adequately funded since I've been here, but we're definitely funded better than we were, and we're definitely much more competitive with other states in our nation, which was not the case over a decade ago. So we're moving in the right direction. But having more stability, knowing what we're going to have year to year will certainly help us. And Washington Unified is very fortunate to have had very strong people in our budget office, making sure that we stay fiscally solvent and that we're doing a good job with our money and that we are not having anything in jeopardy. So I'm very grateful for them and the work that's been happening there.
Follow-up question for you. What do you believe the role of the board is in order, you mentioned staff keeping you fiscally sound, but a minute maybe response, what do you believe is the board's responsibility in keeping the district fiscally sound?
Well, it's twofold. One, outside of the district, we should be advocating and working hard for funding. I've worked very hard to secure funding for example, national board certification. And so now teachers in Washington Unified, most of our school districts qualify. The state will pay the bill for them to get nationally board certified. So our advocacy at the state level is really important. As elected officials, we could do that. But then in terms of in the classrooms, we cannot come with our agenda and think, add this, add this, add this, without understanding that we need to take things away. And so our board is very mindful of that. And if we have new ideas that we want to add to the table, how are we going to afford that? If there's a new position, we've worked really hard to capture all the grant money possible. So many of the new positions we have are grant funded, but that eventually will expire. And so we need to have a very close pulse on that and what will happen when that grant money runs out, and be aware that that position could go away and make adjustments as needed.
Understood. Thank you so much. So given that I asked a follow-up, I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Questions back to you, Preston. What do you believe, or do you believe the district is adequately funded? And if not, what would you propose? And then secondarily, what do you believe is the board's role in ensuring that the district is fiscally sound?
Great question. Let's answer directly. Do I feel that the district is adequately funded? No, I do not. But I do know that education funding in the state of California is at an all-time high. I don't think public education has never seen such a large influx of money that districts in the state of California are currently receiving. But again, that's where the transparency needs to come from. We can say, oh, we don't have money for this, we don't have money for that, but if we're not actually laying things out in a way where our public can understand, so they can see that, hey, this is how much money we're spending on salaries. This is where all of our money is going. That's an issue, because then that creates that problem of folks saying, well, the district is wasting money. We've got to be 100% transparent with that. Now, one of the things that I would propose that we do, I think the district needs to be very much more active in pursuing grants, with the understanding that grant funding does run out. And so if we add programs with grant funds, there has to be a plan in place as to what is going to happen with those positions or with those programs when that grant money runs out. Because we all, educators have a tendency to get very attached to programs. And then all of a sudden when the grant money runs out and they want to continue that program, but now all of a sudden there's the money is no longer in the budget, do we continue that program, or do we hold the strong line and say, you know what, no, this was a grant funded position. We knew it was only going to be a 5-year position or a 5-year program. We no longer have the funds. We have to end it because we don't want to pull money out of our general fund that we may or may not be able to afford, or it's going to pull money from other programs to be able to continue to fund those grant funded positions. So the use of one-time funds, you've got to be very, very strategic on that. Now, and maybe, especially with the influx of COVID money that the districts have gotten, there's a lot of different ways that money can be spent. And a lot of that money doesn't have to be spent right away. I think a lot of people think, well, the district got all this COVID money that has to be spent right away. Districts have, most districts have until about 2028 or 2028 before that money has to be spent. So there can be plans and things like that in place that will allow districts to be able to either expand programs, contract programs, or make improvements with money, with the plan in place and with it in sight. That, you know what, that when this runs out, this has to come to an end.
Understood. Thank you so much. We made it to the end of our questions, so we're going to close out here with your closing statements. So think about some of the things we've talked about and what you believe our viewers should hear most. You'll have 2 minutes, and we're going to start with you, Sarah, for your closing comments.
Okay, well, thank you for having us and for running this forum. It was very much appreciated. And I want to first and foremost say that I am always here. My door is not my home door is not necessarily always open, but you're always welcome to email me, to reach out, to call, and I am here to take questions from the community and to work, obviously, with our business partners as well at the Chamber. I'm very proud of what's happening in Washington Unified, but there's a lot more, as we spoke today, that needs to be done. And as the most experienced board member on the board currently, I want to be there to continue the work that we're doing and to keep the stability with a lot of new things that are going on right now. And I'm proud to have the endorsement of our Washington Unified Teachers Association, and I'm proud and honored to have the endorsement of our classified staff as well, the people who are on the ground doing all the hard work in our schools for our kids. I am here to be the voice of the community, and I promise that I will always work my hardest in terms of getting to the root of the problem and knowing how we can have solutions to move forward and to do good things for our kids. And I think one thing we didn't talk a lot about today is River City High School, Washington Middle College. We have incredible things happening for our high school kids and good opportunities. We have 9 career technical pathways, many of which your chamber members support and help us with. And if anyone would like a tour of those facilities, I'm happy to do it to show what's happening, because that's what we need to work on this year and do better, is telling the stories of our district and making sure that that gets out, and that people are coming back onto our campuses now after a lot of time of having them closed and off. And so I'm excited to welcome people back and get those tours and things going, and I hope to earn your vote.
Thank you, Sarah. Preston, over to you.
Well, I want to again thank the Chamber for putting this on, and it's very important for me for people to understand that when it comes to educating our kids, education is a community event. It's something that doesn't take place just within the walls of our schools. It's something that takes place out in our communities, out in our homes. When our kids leave our schools, the learning doesn't stop. We as a board, we have got to be able to maintain and to be able to build upon a vision that is laid out for our schools. I believe that the responsibility of a trustee is to be able to provide the district with a vision and a blueprint on which to follow and how to be able to attain that vision. I believe that I brought that to the board in 2018 when I was elected. Unfortunately, I was not able to run for re-election in 2020 because of the vote that was taken in the board meeting prior to me being sworn in to move to districting. But from what I see, I think the question is that for our community is to ask yourself, are you pleased with where our district currently is? And have you been pleased with the progress that you've seen that our district has made in the last 20 years? Education is not static. Education has got to be continually evolving and changing and growing with the times and with the circumstances that it presents itself. And my opponent boasts about the WSTA endorsement, which is interesting considering that WSTA didn't even reach out to me to interview for an endorsement. So, but that's unfortunate. But again, if you want progress, you want to see things move forward, you want to see our district achieve the greatness that I know that it can have and can attain, then I'm the candidate that you want to vote for.
Thank you. I want to thank you both for spending your evening with us, for sharing your priorities and what you see as important impacting our Area 5 for Washington Unified School District. For those of us online, this brings us to the end of our second forum, but we are not done just yet. Coming up next will be the West Sacramento City Council races, starting with the newly created District 3. We'll be back right after this short break. Thank you. Good evening, and welcome to the West Sacramento's 2022 Candidates Forum, presented by the West Sacramento Chamber of Commerce. I'm here just to give you a brief reminder of the rules for tonight's forum. First and foremost, this is not a debate. We intend to ask our candidates thoughtful questions and get thoughtful answers. We also will ensure that the candidates are given the same amount of time and are switched, who goes first and who goes second for each question. We want the viewers at home, all of you, to be able to draw contrasts between the two candidates. We're going to ask all of our candidates to be very specific in their answers, and I, as the moderator, will reserve the right to ask follow-up questions as I see fit. For all of you at home, though, we also encourage you to be a part of this discussion. So if you have questions for the candidates, please put it in the chat. Our team will do the best to gather the themes and overall comments, and we'll be asking the candidates questions towards the end of each session. Thanks for being here tonight, and we look forward to a great discussion.
Hello, West Sacramento residents and business leaders. My name is Jesse Salinas, and I am the Yolo County Register of Voters. It is an honor and privilege to welcome you to the West Sacramento Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum. Yes, it is election time again, with the 2022 general election coming up on Tuesday, November 8th. Yolo County officially became a Voters' Choice Act county in March, which means voters have more ways and more days to return their ballot. In West Sacramento, ballot drop boxes are available from October 10th through 8 p.m. on election night on November 8th and are located at City Hall, Nugget Market, and State Food Supermarket, formerly Artiegas. The City Hall ballot drop box is an exterior drop box that is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Interior drop boxes are available during the store's regular business hours. In West Sacramento, City Hall Galleria rooms are available for 11 days as a vote center. It will be open Saturday, October 29th through Monday, November 7th, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And on election day, November 8th, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Additional vote centers will be open for 4 days in West Sacramento at Bridgeway Lakes Boathouse, at Bright CCT as well. These locations will be open from Saturday, November 5th to Monday, November 7th, also from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and on Election Day from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. At vote centers, voters can return their vote by mail ballot and register and vote regardless of where they live in Yolo County. Don't forget to register and let your voice be heard this November. For more information, visit us on social media or at our website, yoloelections.org. Thank you for being an engaged voter.
Good evening and welcome back. My name is Chelsea Miner and I'm your moderator today. Excited to be here as we've transitioned to our West Sacramento City Council candidates, first and foremost, starting with District 3. In January, the West Sacramento City Council adopted a resolution of intent to transition the city to district-based council elections. Through the districting process, including several map versions with a series of public comments, the city adopted a new district maps for city council member seats. For this cycle, the mayor, along with districts 3 and 4, are on the November ballot. Our current mayor, Martha Guerrero, is running unopposed this cycle and will continue to serve for an additional 2-year term. Mayor Guerrero has prepared a video tonight for our audience viewing. Let's watch the video.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the West Sacramento Chamber of Commerce for hosting our West Sacramento Candidate Forum, providing the opportunity to hear from the candidates who will be on the next ballot. Like many cities around the world, West Sacramento has weathered a storm and come out stronger and more resilient than ever. This past year, the city met a major milestone on flood protection by signing a partnership between West Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency and the United States Army Corps of Engineers Sacramento District Office, officially initiating construction of $1.1 billion in levee improvements. Our Equitable Investment Initiative is funding a partnership with Habitat for Humanity's Rock the Block program that will target homes in need of rehabilitation in the Broderick and Bright community. Our partnership with the California Hispanic Chambers of Commerce established a business accelerator program for both the beginning entrepreneur and the seasoned business owner, seeking support to start and maintain a small business. The Sacramento Avenue Complete Streets Corridor Improvement Plan will engage the community to assess and prioritize much needed biking, pedestrian safety, and aesthetic improvements along Sacramento Avenue. Our federal ARPA funds boosted the Center for Land-Based Learning's mobile food market to address food security efforts, and also established our partnership with First 5 of Yolo County's Welcome Baby program, enabling all new mothers to access support in their home. I also want to recognize this year, City Council supported to adopt a resolution committing to the protection of women's reproductive rights and control over their bodies. On this issue requiring ongoing dialogue, we can count on Alex Hirsch's steadfast commitment to education. We will be conducting online community teach-ins in partnership with Planned Parenthood. In the last 18 months, through successful collaboration with Yolo County, we have housed over 200 individuals, and we are grateful to St. Vincent de Paul, Mercy Housing, Yolo County Children's Alliance, and Mercy Coalition, who work together to help the residents make each dwelling feel like a home. And I'm so proud to support the Mercy Coalition in their effort to replicate the successful San Jose model for a recovery cafe here in West Sacramento in the Community Lutheran Church, which will offer compassion and support for people experiencing the trauma of homelessness. I'm honored to continue to serve as your mayor of West Sacramento, and I'd like to thank the community for their ongoing support.
We're here to cover our West Sacramento City Council District 3. I'd like to welcome both of our candidates here today, Dr. Dante Early and Leanne Linares. Welcome. District 3 includes Southport from Jefferson Boulevard west, along with the Sacramento Deep Watership Channel, which includes a good portion of Southport Parkway and includes the Port District. We're going to start with both of your opening statements. You'll have 2 minutes to introduce yourselves to our online audience and provide them with some background about yourself and why you're running for West Sacramento City Council. Prior to tonight, I've randomly selected who will go first, and we're going to begin with Dante. Go ahead.
Hello, West Sacramento. So when I think of why I want to serve as your city council member, I think of the people and the places that make our neighborhoods a community. Walking the trails and picking veggies at the community garden, scout meetings at Summerfield Park, and cooling off at the spray park with my family. My goal is to make sure we grow and invest in our city while also preserving what makes our community so special. In the year I've served as your city council member, we've made great strides, but still have much to do for our families and neighborhoods. I proudly supported the implementation of Project Home Key to help people in need get housing and services. I also supported the West Gateway Place development of affordable housing because compassionately addressing homelessness begins with available and accessible affordable housing. Parks are the cornerstones of our community. That's why I approved shade structures and new play equipment for multiple parks and multi-million-dollar grants for parks citywide. I advocated for funding to address issues between development in the Southport Industrial Park and residential neighborhoods, and am working to address the annual problem of inconsistent water levels in Bridgeway Lakes. As our community matures, we must invest more to fix our roads, like the soon-to-begin pothole fixes to Southport Parkway and other projects like it. Working with our police department, I supported efforts to increase public safety by improving transparency and restructuring response to calls that require a focus on mental health. And going forward, we have to continue to promote fiscal responsibility, ensure a balanced budget, and fairly compensate those who work with the city. West Sacramento has been my heart and home for 16 years. Whether as a YOLO First 5 commissioner, Girl Scout troop leader, youth coach, chair of the West Sacramento Aging Commission, and now as your city council member, serving our city continues to be a privilege and joy. I'm excited to be here tonight. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Leanne, 2 minutes to you for your opening statement.
Thank you. As a lifelong resident, I understand the needs and issues in West Sacramento, but more than that, I care deeply about the decisions made by the City Council and how it affects the residents. For far too long, our city has prioritized business convenience over resident safety and comfort. Our community is paying the price for this lack of foresight and consideration. We have seen city code rewritten to accommodate industrial businesses rather than enforce the good neighbor policies that were in place to protect residents, which in turn have subjected residents to excessive noise and light pollution around the clock. We have a barrage of semi-trucks creating excessive wear and tear to our roads, but we are not using the generated tax dollars to maintain those roads. We have expanded the residential capacity in our neighborhoods immensely and continue to expand while refusing to invest in the infrastructure to keep up with that growth. Our city has reached a crisis point in infrastructure and public safety, and we need serious solutions and determined public servants who are willing to invest the time to fully understand the extent of these problems and work in collaboration with regional experts and groups to find and implement real, long-term solutions in a timely manner. Our residents cannot afford any more of the excuses or empty promises that they have received in response to these concerns. I am running for City Council because I'm ready to create a change. I'm running for City Council because my past, present, and future are the city of West Sacramento. This community has given me so much, and I am determined to do whatever it takes to use my skills and experience to serve my community with integrity, equity, and transparency. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Leanne, we're going to stick with you for our first question. People are often surprised to learn that the West Sacramento mayor and city council members are part-time commitments. That unfortunately, many of our elected officials, right, have full-time jobs and receive very little support, including no staff, no office, and a minimal salary. As you approach your candidacy, how do you prepare to handle this added workload of public office?
Thank you. I have a lot of experience of giving my free time to worthy causes. I'm a teacher, and a lot of our day is spent as volunteer work. Our contract hours exist, and many of us stay hours. Sometimes I would stay at school until 7 o'clock, working with students, helping them with essays, preparing them, working with clubs and activities, which will tell you is a paid position, but not really. When you do the math, it comes out to about 50 cents an hour, so it kind of covers the gas required to serve. But there's a need that's being met, and sometimes community service and public service is far greater than financial compensation. This is my hometown. This is where I grew up. This is where I'm raising my family, and it's really important to me that the city of West Sacramento continues to be one of, if not the best cities in California. I've long talked about West Sacramento being the best kept secret in the region because we benefit from a small town feel and a tight community with deep roots. And serving that as a public servant is top of my priority list. I've been serving since I was a child in elementary schools, in Parks and Rec, volunteering to coach girls softball. I guess I really don't know how to not serve my community. It is part of me that has been ingrained in me since I was a child, and with or without a salary, this is something that is meaningful to me and maybe the most important thing I've ever done.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Dante, same question over to you. Given that this is a part-time commitment, how do you balance a full-time job in addition to maybe some lack of support at the staff, office, those types of things?
So I want to start with, so I've been serving now for almost a year, and so can speak to what it's been like. I want to start with the fact that we are really fortunate because we have really good staff. Truly invested, committed staff, and it wouldn't be possible to lead in the way that we do without them. When we say part-time, salary, it's a stipend, right? And so what we get is roughly $250 a month to serve. That does not just include the service that we do in regards to our city council meetings. That includes the boards and the commissions that we sit on to represent West Sacramento at the county level as well. Those meetings don't happen at night. Those meetings happen during the day. It includes the time that you have in checking your emails to make sure that you are being responding, right, to your constituents. It also includes things like when you have noise complaints and you have issues in your neighborhood, making time to actually drive there, meet with constituents so that you can sit there and hear what they're hearing so that you can really be supportive. It includes checking in with your staff, with city staff that are so amazing to make sure that we are staying true to the agenda, staying true to what we are hearing as representatives in the community. And so how do I balance all of that? It's an extension of the community work that I've been doing the entire time I've been here. Whether it was coaching basketball, whether it was helping to coach football, whether it is I still do Girl Scouts. I still am going to be coaching for rec basketball. All of those things are important because my community is important to me.
Thank you. Dante, we're going to stay with you for the next question. Given kind of what I shared in the beginning around the change to district specific, you move from an at-large perspective into a district, specifically District 3. So for our viewers watching, what do you believe are the top 3 issues facing District 3 in West Sacramento?
So I think a couple of things are important when we talk about districts and moving to districts. When I ran in 2021, I ran on districts. I ran and said, this is something that we need. We need to be able to not only focus at large, so on our entire city, and work together to ensure that our city is moving forward and progressing, but also be able to hone in on our unique needs of our local communities as well. We were sued for districts, meaning West Sacramento, in 2018. And it wasn't until I got on our city council in 2021, and as you said, in 2022, right, 3 months later, we voted 5-0 to have districts. And so I'm really proud of that, and I want to highlight that. When we talk about the issues that are facing District 3, we have several. We have our roads. We talked about Southport Parkway already, and I mentioned the fact that that is going to be our next huge investment in our roads. It'll be Southport Parkway, it will be Industrial Boulevard, and a little bit of Harbor as well. We have our parks and continuing to invest in those parks and making sure we have the dollars needed. And we have public safety as well, as we think about what are some of the investments that our fire and our police need as we continue to develop and grow. I think that's also why our firefighters have endorsed me, because I understand the need of public safety.
Great, thank you. Leanne, same question to you. Thinking specifically just in District 3, what are the top issues that you see facing this part of the city?
Well, there are several issues in District 3. The number one issue that keeps coming up with every resident that I've spoken to is obviously infrastructure, not just road conditions, but traffic conditions that go with that. We have two two ways in and out of Southport, and with our population having nearly tripled, the road capacity is just not sufficient to sustain. We also have 300 additional housing units going in on Jefferson Boulevard, which could be an additional 600 or more vehicles. And we really can't sustain the growth with the infrastructure that's in place. That's more than fixing potholes and repairing roads. That's actually coming up with solutions to get more people in and out of there safely. It's caused issues for public safety, which would be issue number 2. Our fire department can't navigate around gridlocked roads when there's an emergency call. In addition to that, our Station 45, which is covering well, my district and an area out there, they don't have an engine. They haven't had an engine since 2011, so they don't have the ability to fight a fire with water from that station. The taxpayers have been paying for public safety, and we're having to reroute trucks from other stations when we need water. That's a big concern, and the underfunding has been an issue for that. The other big issue that keeps coming up in District 3 is fiscal transparency. We've passed bond measures, we've passed Measure N, we have money in budgets, and residents are frustrated because they don't understand where the tax dollars are going or how it's being spent. Our lack of communication, of outreach and community education has really been lacking. And whether that's just a need to be more vocal or find better delivery options to residents, it's something they deserve. It's their tax money that they're collecting year after year and raising year after year with property taxes, and they deserve to know how it's being spent.
Great. Thank you so much. As a chamber, we strongly believe that business is a critical part to the city's economic success. So Leanne, this question is going to go directly to you. What type of development growth do you want to see in your district?
Okay. West Sacramento has a long history of relying on industry rather than retail as part of our financial backbone. And we have a lot that has been going on in my district in particular. We've seen Amazon come, set up their warehouse. Distribution in West Sacramento we're a major hub. For transporting products from Northern California to Southern California, we are a prime location. We have access to waterways, railways, and obviously trucking that can get to any highway very quickly. So our financial and our historical backbone has always been industry. So while we need to maintain good relations with our industry partners, and that has to be a priority, we need to do a better job rerouting or assisting with limiting the impact that's having to residential communities. So we are built on industry, and we need to see more retail, and we need to see more sustainability for small businesses. But a big part of that problem is our infrastructure. If people can't easily get down Jefferson Boulevard out into Southport, they're not going to come all the way out into Southport for a nice restaurant, no matter how great it is, when downtown Sacramento is so close. So until we address our infrastructure issues of making it easier for residents in other areas to access the wonderful things we have in West Sacramento, we're going to continue to see businesses that open in Town Center Plaza open and then close because we're not, as a community, able to sustain the volume of sales that they need in order to afford the prices that exist in some of these more expensive retail locations. So finding ways to attract more customers and build our small businesses up, that has to be a focus point for us.
Great, thank you. Dante, same question back to you. As we think, again, specifically to your district, what type of development and growth would you like to see?
So one of the things I'm really excited about is we saw with our West Cap Avenue road work that we literally took up the whole roadway and repaved everything. And I think what we saw there was it's easier to get down the road. I'm calling that out because the next really big roadway project and Enterprise Crossing, which will be another way into our city at Southport specifically, will be Southport Parkway. It's going to be huge. We spent $17 million on West Cap Avenue, which was extremely, a good investment. Our Southport Parkway, Industrial, Harbor, and the Enterprise Crossing, which again will be another way into our industrial area, will be the next huge project, and it will be extremely expensive, but worth it because we need that. When I think about the businesses that I am wanting to bring in addition to industrial, it has been the backbone. The industrial was there first before our neighborhoods and Southport were, right? That is what allowed for Southport Parkway and our Southport area to be invested in and built in. I would like to use our measure in money when I think about equitable investment and using opportunities for small businesses to come into our town center. I think one of the things that we've seen with the Pheasant Club closing, I don't know if you guys heard as a chamber, I got a lot of comments and feedback from community members that what's going to happen now? We need restaurants. We need restaurants for our kids, for our families, not just for folks coming out of the community, but for folks living in the community. And so those are the kinds of businesses and investments I'm wanting to see and wanting to use our Measure In and other measure dollars that we have to do it.
Great, thank you. For our online viewers, just a reminder, please put your comments in the comment box there on Facebook. Share with us your questions or topics or themes that are top of mind for our District 3 candidates. Dante, I'm going to go right back to you. The city recently approved a fee reduction for development projects in the Bridge District and Washington neighborhood. What is your stance on the fee reduction? And do you believe that the city should expand this reduction to other parts of the city? And if yes, why?
So a couple things. I think what we need to understand is how our city has grown and where we have seen a lot of the development. What you have often heard is that there's so much new growth in the Southport area. The reason why we've seen that huge growth is because it's cheaper to build in Southport. You do not have to tear up all of the infrastructure that potentially has been underneath, right? And so what we have seen is all of this growth happening in Southport while we haven't seen that same level of growth happening in Washington District. And so one of the things we wanted to do in reducing the impact fees to build there, right, is to encourage and incentivize businesses and new growth. You're going to have to dig up the roads and put in infrastructure, which will make it more expensive. And so how do we, as a city, do what we can? We can't do everything, right? But incentivize that. You talked about bringing businesses in. You talked about bringing development in. That's what those lowered impact fees do. So again, I don't necessarily know if it would make sense to lower impact fees in the South when it's cheaper to build there. What we were trying to do was incentivize. What we also did, and what you saw, was in Washington District, we pulled up the roads, another $17 million project that came before West Cap. The reason why we did that, those green bikeways, what happened is we put in new piping, new plumbing, new actual cables, so that, again, we were incentivizing folks to come and build. That allows for new businesses, that also allows for new housing, affordable housing, because if it's cheaper to build, then that will hopefully get transferred over to residents.
Thank you. Leanne, same question back to you. What is your stance on the fee reduction for the Bridge District and Washington neighborhood, and would you support other development fee reductions in other parts of the city?
Thank you. I think it's important that we're paying attention to costs for businesses to do business in our city. It is one of the reasons why many of the housing projects that we see around town and throughout are luxury homes. And it's pricing out our residents from the ability to purchase within their community. And part of the reason is that fee to purchase the land and do the project in the first place. If the builder has a larger upfront fee, they have to build a larger project to justify that cost and that additional overhead. So I think it is important that we are looking at spaces around the Bridge District and Washington and some of the older areas, and we are working to do infilling and provide better access, better affordable housing to residents in those areas. But we also need to be careful about the slippery slope of then, allowing gentrification to come into some of our older neighborhoods, which is then going to remove access to some needed resources for those communities. It can be really easy to see new developments going in, higher income coming in, people buying out businesses that are essential to our lower income residents. things like laundromats and the corner store, which might seem like a rundown small business to you, but to a person who doesn't have a car or can't access public transportation, their only ability to buy groceries or food is the corner store. So we really need to make sure we're assessing impacts for all of these projects on the actual residents who live there. Sometimes it's easy to be short-sighted and think only about the financial gain and the growth within the city, but we need to do a better job communicating and outreach to our residents to find out their needs. We had the same problem with some of the new development that happened in the Brighton Broderick side. They built new housing and apartments, and now they want to charge residents $100 a month to park their car, residents who've lived there before who cannot afford an additional fee. And that's due to the new development and growth that's happened. And if we don't go back and fix that and grandfather in current residents, then we're doing a big disservice to our community.
Thank you. First question is going to be back to you here. We know that one of the #1 issues impacting our community, not just here in West Sacramento, but across the region, is our homeless population. As you think about your role on the city council, what do you believe is the city's role versus the county's role in taking care of those that are unhoused, including but not limited to housing, enforcement, mental health, and other services?
I have that note. This problem has been increasing dramatically. I think we're up 60% with our homeless population throughout and in West Sacramento and Yolo County. And part of it is related to the economy, right? So it's really difficult to differentiate city versus county responsibility, and I really have a hard time stopping it there because homelessness is not a community problem. Homelessness is a transient problem. Homelessness affects cities because they move. They don't stay. They're not homeless just living in one place in West Sacramento. They're moving around. And so we need to really work with neighboring partners, and that includes Sacramento City. When you look at cities who've tried to tackle homelessness and you check the data and you do the research, the one undeniable fact about addressing the need for homelessness is to find permanent housing solutions for the homeless. There is no job program, there is no recovery program, there is no rehab program that will work when the people are not housed first. And we're not talking about temporary housing or unstable housing. When we look at our hierarchy of needs, if our survival needs are not being met, anything that comes after that will not work. So we need to find ways to invest in permanent housing solutions and then work on getting our homeless population into recovery programs, work programs, transition programs. And we have wonderful community partners who are already doing that work. We have wonderful partners with the Mercy Coalition and a Recovery Cafe who are on the ground working for all those other layers. But it's our job to work with the city and the county, but also Sacramento and other neighboring regions to tackle this as a group and put these people in permanent housing and then work with them one by one to find the solutions that will work for them.
Thank you so much. Dante, same question back to you. Given your role on city council, how does that vary based on what you believe the county should do in topics for the unhoused, including housing, enforcement, mental health, and other services?
That's a lot. That's a big question. That's a big question. Okay, so I'm going to work my way backwards. So in regards to, you said enforcement. So let's touch on that just a little bit. When I think about individuals who are unhoused, who also may have mental health needs, one of the things that I worked on before I even got on city council was being part of a task force for the mayor at the time to think through what does community policing look like. And one of the things that we did that has turned out to be really, really successful and what came as a recommendation out of that task force was creating a community responder unit who can actually respond and pair a police officer with a social worker. And I know, because I've talked to Chief Strange, and he's gone on and talked publicly about this as well, that that has been an immense support for our police department. What it allows for is sworn officers to do things like fight crime, and allows for social workers to do things like offer services. And so that's one big thing. When we think about what does that look like, well, we use county dollars to pay for a portion of that. And so when I think about the future of that, it's also making sure that there's money in our city budget to accommodate that. I also think about 1801 West Cap, which was a county investment, a public-private investment. We talked about Mercy Coalition, and it also was a city investment. You want to talk about partnerships. That is permanent housing, semi-permanent housing that also offers wraparound services for those who are unhoused that, again, have mental health needs. We have the Home Run project that we have continued to double down on and invest in to offer, again, services and housing for those who are unhoused. And then, most importantly, we also need affordable housing projects. When we think about unhoused individuals and how it's increased, it's not just people who don't have jobs. You have people who are working poor who are unhoused. That means that we need to work with our businesses and work with developers to offer affordable housing so people can find housing.
Great, thank you. My favorite part of the whole night is the lightning round. So I've got 5 questions. We'll intermittent here. I'm going to ask that you keep your hand raised so that our video team can toggle, and we'll keep it simple. If you support, you raise your hand. If you are opposed, you keep your hand down, so that way then we don't have to do 2 shots. Does that work? Okay, here we go. Number 1, lightning round. Do you believe unhoused individuals have the right to camp on public property when shelter is available? Please raise your hand if you support. Please keep your hand down if you oppose. Thank you. Keep them up. You got them? Thank you. No, you're good. All right. Rent control is a government program that places limits on the amount a landlord can ask for leasing a home or renewing a lease. Please raise your hand if you support. Please keep your hand down if you oppose. Great. Thank you. So specific for District 3, the Yarborough project was approved by the City Council in 2008. The project includes a new community in Southport. It consists of residential units, retail, a golf course, walking trails, and a central gathering place for the community. Please raise your hand if you support the Yarborough project. Wonderful. Thank you. This is a little complicated, so bear with me here. AB 1928 is also known as Hope, California. It was authored by Assembly Member Kevin McCarty in the California Legislature this year. The bill would have authorized the counties of San Joaquin, Santa Clara, and Yolo to create a pilot program referred to as the Secured Residential Treatment Program. This was for individuals suffering from substance abuse disorders and who have been convicted of drug-motivated felony crimes. The bill would have required a court at sentencing the option to offer a defendant convicted of a drug-motivated felony voluntary participation in the program as an alternative to prison or jail. Please raise your hand if you support AB 1928. Please keep your hand down if you oppose. Thank you. And lastly, we've talked a lot about new initiatives for our city. Many of these programs will cost money. Do you support new taxes to support public services like transportation and public safety? Please raise your hand if you support. Please keep your hand down if you oppose. Today, we've talked a lot about several new initiatives for the city. Many of these programs will cost additional money. Do you support new taxes to support public services like transportation or public safety? Great. Thank you both. We're good? Great. All right. Back to the questions at hand. We've got a great question from our Facebook audience. With the continuous and planned development in Southport, how do you ensure infrastructure like our schools and parks get developed along with the housing? Starting with Dante. I had to think. I apologize. Dante, right back out to you.
So if I'm thinking of the question, how do we ensure that schools or parks are being developed with the new housing?
Correct.
You know, just quite honestly, this one I think is fairly simple in that it requires real communication and partnerships. This is built into the plans. It's built into the developmental agreements, the development agreements, as well as when we go before our planning commission. This is part of the questions that they're asking. In addition, as I've talked about some of the projects and talked with some of the folks who are wanting to develop all over our city, one of the first things I ask is, have you talked to my school board partners? Have you reached out to figure out what those needs are? And then the other question I ask is, what are you hearing from the community? I can tell you what I'm hearing from the community. And so when you ask how do you ensure that's happening, you build it in to part of the process, which it already is for us, and then you hold folks accountable to make sure that it continues to happen.
Thank you. Leanne, same question back to you. Just considering the large amount of growth in Southport, how do we make sure that the infrastructure, like our schools and parks, are, pacing the same way?
Well, while I agree that there are some policies in place to do that, there are property taxes that are set aside for new construction for the building of new schools and making sure they're well funded. We've had these ordinances that say we have to protect areas of wildlife and sanctuary and open parks, but I've also seen a history that we don't always obey those policies that are in place. We have a history of actually changing the policy to accommodate a builder or accommodate an industry rather than actually holding that as a promise to our residents. And so it's nice to have the policy, and I believe they should be followed, but we need to be transparent and we need to be including more stakeholders in that discussion process. Very often decisions are made and the outreach to the community posted it on Facebook and invited them to come. But that's really not good outreach. And anybody who's done any data analysis or statistical data collection knows that sample bias is a big problem. And if you don't go out and actually talk to the residents and elicit a response, you're not going to get meaningful feedback. And I think that's what has happened in many of our communities surrounding the lakes, surrounding some of our wildlife refuge areas. Residents aren't happy because decisions were made after the fact. They were already living there, things were changed, and promises were broken or policy was changed. So it's more than just putting the policy in place. You have to bring more people to the table. You have to discuss with more stakeholders and more experts about impacts on the community for every project that's being done.
Next question's back right to you, which is cities around our region are permitting retail cannabis. Yolo County currently allows non-storefront retail sales, but has an expansion to storefronts in 2023. Do you support West Sacramento approving retail cannabis within our city limits and specifically within your district?
So retail cannabis it's coming one way or another, and so we're either going to allow businesses to do business in our region and make sure we take the steps to ensure proper protocols are being followed, any licensing and any enforcement issues that may need to be monitored. But our residents are going to choose to spend their income, their disposable income on retail cannabis, or they're not. So we're either going to allow them to do that in our community and keep tax dollars here, or they're going to go right across the river or right across town to spend that money somewhere else. So I'm in support of it, provided all regulations are followed, provided all safety and security measures are accounted for, provided we make sure we understand how it might impact surrounding neighborhoods and businesses. So like any project, you need to do the work to understand it completely and make sure it's implemented with fidelity and with safety in mind. But there's no reason we shouldn't offer that if it's a legal business and we have a desire for that in West Sacramento, then of course we would like to profit from that as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Leanne. Dante, same question back to you. Do you support West Sacramento approving retail cannabis within the city limits and or within your district?
So we voted on this in the year I've been on city council, and my vote was yes. But let me tell you a little bit about my vote. So one of the things that I think is important when we think about particularly our district is that when you are having a dispensary, you don't want it only in places that are in the shadows, behind scenes, because it can actually promote crime as well. It's important that we are doing these things safely, that we are working in partnership with our police department and our public safety, and also working with our community. What we have heard loud and clear from cities surrounding us is that our residents too want access to dispensaries in their neighborhoods and in their community like District 3. I think the other opportunity that providing dispensary licenses offer is also an opportunity to invest in small businesses, to invest in communities that may have actually been disenfranchised by the war on drugs. And so we talked about already, or I talked about already, Measure N, and our ability to use some of those dollars to invest in equitable investments, including small businesses, and set-asides So actual licenses that are also set aside for folks like our BIPOC community, for folks like women-owned businesses, that again, this is an opportunity for them to get into an industry that potentially they wouldn't have been able to get into if it weren't for us providing equity opportunities.
Thank you. It's hard to believe. We are getting close here on time. So we're going to shift the last two questions. You're going to have a minute to answer, and then we'll close out with your 2-minute closing statements. So Dante, this question is for you. Again, 1 minute. Given the role of police and fire and the important role that they play in keeping our community safe, do you support increasing budget expenditures for police and fire? If yes, maybe would you give an example to what that money would go towards?
So one of the things that I have done both as a city council, but also just in wanting to engage with my local police department as well as fire department is asked, what are the things that you need? In working through even what those needs might be for this year's budget as we look to next year's. We actually had our chief as well, both for Chief Strange for our police department, as well as our chief for our fire. And so when you ask me, hey, do we need to increase our budget in order to better meet the needs? I've asked our fire association, I've asked them, hey, is there something we're doing where you're not getting your needs met? And what they're saying is actually no. We are doing the appropriate investments for them to make sure we are meeting the needs. Now, if that weren't to happen in the future, of course we would need to invest more in our public safety. But in the meantime, what we are hearing from both our public safety, so police as well as fire, is that we are helping to meet their needs in our current tax structure and budget.
Great. Thank you. Leanne, question back to you. Same question. Given the role of police and fire, do you believe that they should have a budget increase? And if so, what might that money go towards?
I absolutely agree that we need to increase our budget for police and fire. We do not have an engine in Station 45. Our residents are being underserved. The number of calls per year has increased dramatically as we've expanded and added new residents. We're almost at capacity in the north side of town. They're going to need a new fire station. That's going to happen. It's not a if question, it's a when. And while I'm listening to my opponent talk about increasing and listening to the needs of the police department, they've had a 5 full-time employee reduction in the police department. Our city has continued to grow and our police force has been reduced. While I think it's important to offer mental health services, I don't think reducing or making budget cuts to public safety with no actual measurable results from the program that the funding was shifted to is really serving our residents well. Our entire traffic division in our police force has been cut. We have no patrol traffic divisions throughout our city, and it's unacceptable. It's caused accidents and damages to our residents and families already.
Thank you. Last question. You want me to respond to that? 1 minute. I'll let you do that in your closing statements, if that's okay. Let's do it in your closing statements. Thank you. All right, 1 minute, last question to you. Project labor agreements requires public infrastructure projects to pre-hire collective bargaining agreements with one or more labor organizations. This has been established mostly for terms and conditions of employment for particular construction projects. For public transportation projects in the city of West Sacramento, are you in favor of mandated economic workforce trainings related to labor agreements?
For public transportation?
For not transportation, public infrastructure dollars.
Infrastructure, okay. I'm absolutely in favor of project labor agreements. We have a policy right now at the city level that is mandates us to use lowest bidder pricing, and that sounds great. It sounds fiscally responsible. On paper, it sounds good. Choose the lowest bidder, save the taxpayer dollars. But it has done nothing but cause problems for our city since we started. Station 45 was built with a lowest bidder policy, and it was leaking. The windows were leaking from the day construction was finished because we went with the lowest bidder instead of quality work from labor unions. The high school was the same thing. We used lowest bidder, and we've had problem after problem from poor construction and poor planning or poor execution. And it hasn't been a good investment for our money. While project labor agreements may seem a little bit more expensive, initially, we are not going to have to go back and add additional funding for repairs, maintenance, upgrades, and fixes to work that wasn't done with quality work. So we need those.
Thank you. Dante, do you need me to repeat the question?
I'm going to do this as a twofer, just because you're forcing me to.
You got 1 minute.
So in regards to our police department, Those 5 positions that were reallocated for community development and community respondent actually are able to be filled. And so I know that it's a misconception, but we have overflow in which if we were to get a full police department, fill all of our current positions, they also have budget room to fill additional 5 positions. So that's actually in our budget. Again, it's a misconception, I get it, but it's untrue. And I think it's important that we say that here. In regards to project labor agreements, absolutely are in support for our public projects. It is important that we are not only paying prevailing wage, which by the way is part of a mandate for our growth, no matter what we do, whether we have PLAs or not. The important part is the health insurance. The important part is the training that offers the economic development and the apprenticeships within our program, within our city. And that's really where those project labor agreements are, for me, the most important is the economic development for communities that maybe have been disenfranchised or not invested in.
Great, thank you. Came to the end of our questions. Thank you both for your very thoughtful answers. We will end with your closing statements. Each of you will have 2 minutes, and this time we'll start with you, Leanne.
Fantastic. The City of West Sacramento is ready for real leadership. We are ready for leaders who are eager to include community members in the decision-making processes, ensure fiscal transparency and responsibility, and guarantee equity across all regions and demographic groups within our city. The time for empty promises and shallow commitments to service has passed. I have built my life and career upon the pillars of hard work, service to others, and integrity with my word. I am ready to deliver for the City of West Sacramento. As your next City Council member, I will work to implement solutions to infrastructure through better planning and budgeting, prioritize public safety by fully funding our police and fire departments, and ensure that our valuable industry neighbors remain allies to our city by enforcing and enacting procedures that allow them to do their important work, but without risking the safety or comfort of our families. This community already knows that teachers and other public servants are our problem solvers. We are the ones who worked to find solutions to community problems like food access and public outreach during and after COVID. We are the ones who find ways to parent the parentless, to counsel the youth without access to mental health supports, and to implement all other community-wide outreach and solutions. I have spent a lifetime getting things done. I am committed to serving my community with the same focus and determination, and I'm ready to work for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne. Dante, 2 minutes for your closing statement.
So 2 years ago, I announced my candidacy for City Council by saying this moment is not lost on me, that if elected, I will be the first African American to be elected to any city office since West Sacramento was incorporated 34 years ago. It took nearly a year across multiple campaigns, hard work from tireless volunteers, and support from family and friends, but we made West Sacramento history together. My service on the council and my experience as a leader in public and mental health, as well as a nonprofit CEO working in the community to support ending poverty, make me ready to serve for the next 4 years. I voted in favor of making housing more affordable, gave funding for parks, road fixes, transportation projects, improving public safety, and fully funding our public safety, and making West Sacramento more walkable. I've kept equity in mind with every decision I've made. If you choose to place your trust in me again, I will continue to work with our regional partners to compassionately address homelessness while giving our businesses the tools they need to thrive in a post-COVID economy. I will work to expand our public transportation to make it more efficient and accessible to our entire city, while making sure we expand services and opportunities for our youth who have been hit very hard by COVID and need social activities to grow into healthy and happy citizens for West Sacramento. As I said a year ago, from labor and democratic groups to business interests to a whole host of statewide and local elected officials and others who endorse me, they may not always agree on policy, but they continue to agree that I'm the one person who will work to bring folks together to do the most amount of good for the greatest amount of our community. After a year of serving as your city council member, we've accomplished so much, and with your support, we can do so much more together.
Thank you both. Well, it's been a pleasure chatting with both of you. I want to thank you for being here, sharing your platform, and your approach to so many critical issues that are impacting our community. For those of us online, this brings us to the end of our third forum this evening. We have one remaining featuring the candidates for West Sacramento City Council District 4. We ask you to stay tuned and come right back after a short break to hear from those candidates. Thank you. Good evening, and welcome to the West Sacramento's 2022 Candidates Forum, presented by the West Sacramento Chamber of Commerce. I'm here just to give you a brief reminder of the rules for tonight's forum. First and foremost, this is not a debate. We intend to ask our candidates thoughtful questions and get thoughtful answers. We also will ensure that the candidates are given the same amount of time and are switched, who goes first and who goes second for each question. We want the viewers at home, all of you, to be able to draw contrasts between the two candidates. We're going to ask all of our candidates to be very specific in their answers, and I, as the moderator, will reserve the right to ask follow-up questions as I see fit. For all of you at home, though, we also encourage you to be a part of this discussion. So if you have questions for the candidates, please put it in the chat. Our team will do the best to gather the themes and overall comments, and we'll be asking the candidates questions towards the end of each session. Thanks for being here tonight, and we look forward to a great discussion.
Hello, West Sacramento residents and business leaders. My name is Jesse Salinas, and I am the Yolo County Register of Voters. It is an honor and privilege to welcome you to the West Sacramento Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum. Yes, it is election time again, with the 2022 general election coming up on Tuesday, November 8th. Yolo County officially became a Voters' Choice Act county in March, which means voters have more ways and more days to return their ballot. In West Sacramento, ballot drop boxes are available from October 10th through 8 p.m. on election night on November 8th, and are located at City Hall, Nugget Market, and State Food Supermarket, formerly Artiegas. The City Hall ballot drop box is an exterior drop box that is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Interior drop boxes are available during the store's regular business hours. In West Sacramento, City Hall Galleria rooms are available for 11 days as a vote center. It will be open Saturday, October 29th through Monday, November 7th, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And on Election Day, November 8th, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Additional vote centers will be open for 4 days in West Sacramento at Bridgeway Lakes Boathouse, at Bright CCT as well. These locations will be open from Saturday, November 5th to Monday, November 7th, also from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Election Day from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. At vote centers, voters can return their vote by mail ballot and register and vote regardless of where they live in Yolo County. Don't forget to register and let your voice be heard this November. For more information, visit us on social media or at our website, yoloelections.org. Thank you for being an engaged voter.
Good evening and welcome back. My name is Chelsea Miner and I am proud to serve as tonight's moderator. We are back with our final candidates forum. I want to thank all of our viewers who have been with us throughout the evening. We're here with and joined by the West Sacramento City Council candidates for District 4. I'd like to welcome Alex Hirsch and Verna Sulpiziel-Hull. Pleasure. Thank you both for being here tonight. So as we talked about the last forum, we are now in district elections for West Sacramento, and District 4 includes Southport from Jefferson Boulevard east to the Sacramento River, including a portion of Linden Loop. We're going to start tonight with your opening statements. Each of you will have 2 minutes to introduce yourself to our online audience and provide some background about yourself and why you're running for office. Prior to tonight, I randomly selected who will go first, and we're going to begin with Alex.
Well, thank you, Chelsea, and thank you to the Chamber for hosting tonight's event. My name is Alex Hirsch, and I'm running for West Sacramento City Council because I love our community and I am proud to call it home. Like many of the viewers on the video tonight, I chose to call West Sacramento home because I know what a special community this is. I've lived here for almost a decade now, and I've become very involved in that time in helping make our community a better place. I've served as a board member for the West Sacramento Friends of the Library for many years, and in that role, I've had the opportunity to work with community members and community organizations to raise funds for our local library so that it can offer family-friendly programs at no cost to community members. I've served on city commissions, 4 of them since 2015, and in that role, I've had the opportunity to really learn our city's local government issues, to see the challenges that we face and the areas that we can improve. In my day job, I have the privilege to serve in public service. I've worked as a professional, nonpartisan attorney for the California State Legislature, and I currently serve as a policy consultant in the California State Senate, where I help to create innovative and successful housing and transportation solutions for communities all around our state. All of this has given me the real experience and the proven leadership record in West Sacramento to succeed on City Council and hit the ground running on day one to make our West Sacramento a brighter place for us all. I've had the privilege of speaking with community members over the last few weeks to hear their concerns and to share my vision of what we can do in West Sacramento to make this a better place, a community where we have safer streets, a community where we have more job opportunities, and a community where we have greater parks, greater family-friendly amenities, greater affordable amenities for us all. I look forward to sharing more about my vision with you tonight, and I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Alex. Verna, 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you. So my family moved to West Sacramento in 1987, which happened to be the year that the city incorporated. And the city and I have really grown up together. My life has been shaped by West Sacramento. My earliest memories include being a part of the group that started the West Sacramento Dolphin swim team, to learning to drive a stick shift car on Jefferson Boulevard, which I do not recommend, and more recently, buying my first home and bringing my first son home to it. Growing up, I remember telling people that I lived in West Sacramento, and I told them to get off on Jefferson Boulevard, hang a left, and drive. And then keep driving, and when you think you've gone through too far, drive a little further. And then when you see the Pheasant Club, turn left, and that's the neighborhood I live in. Now I get to say, I live behind the Nugget Market in West Sacramento, and everybody knows exactly where that is. We've built an incredible community in West Sacramento, and I love it here. I've spent much of my career advocating and supporting families in West Sacramento in a variety of different roles, from supporting our small businesses and planning community events like the 4th of July Bridge Fest and even the Farmers Market at the Barn in my work as president and CEO of the West Sacramento Chamber, to fundraising tens of thousands of dollars through the West Sacramento Foundation through our All Charities raffle, which is kicking off this weekend, to now serving as a first 5 YOLO commissioner, where we focus on ensuring families with children under 5 are adequately supported. I've coached middle school volleyball, volunteered at our Community Day Parade, done fundraisers for the YOLO Crisis Nursery, and just last year helped plan a community festival. There are a lot of reasons to run for office, but at the end of the day, for me, it comes down to one thing: love. Love for the community and love for people in the room. Literally people in this room and people watching on TV tonight. I love this community and I want to serve you. I want to reestablish access to affordable childcare, expand mental health resources, plan to take the lead in creating more family-friendly events at our local parks, and I'd love to work to expand our dining and social opportunities. Thank you for the Chamber for being here tonight, and I look forward to the conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Great start. I'm going to start the same way I did with our candidates in District 3. We shared earlier that people are often surprised to learn that our mayor and city council members are a part-time commitment. Each of you could have full-time jobs with little support from no staff that's dedicated to your office, no office, and kind of a minimal salary. As you approach this new office, how do you prepare to handle the added workload of public service? And we're going to start with you, Verna.
Yeah, you know, you prioritize the things that are important to you. And I prioritize my family, and I prioritize community service. And I'm already doing this work in the community right now. You know, specifically tactically, if elected, I'll step down from my commissioner role as a YOLO First 5 commissioner, which will create space. But a lot of the things I'm doing, I'm already doing now, and serving on city council will just expand that work. I think there's opportunity to look at the support that the city offers our mayor and city council members, whether that's a constituent services person or somebody to make sure that we are serving the residents of West Sacramento appropriately.
Thank you. Alex, same question to you. How will you balance the new challenges and opportunities that public service will provide?
Well, I think that's a great question, Chelsea, and I think it's something that's pretty eye-opening sometimes to West Sacramento residents, where they learn that our city council members, it's not a full-time position. It's not a full-paid job. What it really is a position of love, a love of wanting to give back and serve in our community. And I'm very fortunate to work in a professional setting where I would have the opportunity to fully commit myself to serving our city council. I already do a lot of this as a planning commissioner currently in the city of West Sacramento. I've done it as a city commissioner since 2015. I do it in my position with the Friends of the Library. It's all about prioritizing those things that are important to you. And for me, giving back to the community is the most important thing to me. So to serve as an effective city council member, it's simply an elevation of the work and service I already do on city commissions. It's a little more time spent preparing for city council meetings, a little more time spent at hours-long council meetings that go into the night, a little more time spent during the day, because as a city council member, not only do you represent the community in the West Sacramento at city council, but you represent the community of West Sacramento regionally on many different regional boards that meet during the daytime. And so again, because of my day job in the California State Senate, I do have the support and the flexibility to give myself in every way to serve West Sacramento and to do this job well.
Great, thank you, Alex. Just a reminder for our Facebook audience, please add your questions into the comment box. Our team is taking a look at those and shuffling them to me here this evening. So we welcome all of your questions and engagement. Alex, next question, we'll start with you. You know, I started this session reminding folks that this is District 4 in a very specific area of our city. Tell me what you believe are the top 3 issues facing District 4.
Well, I certainly think West Sacramento is a wonderful place, but we have a lot of work to do. And one of the biggest things we can do, in the city as a whole, but especially in District 4, is improving our streets and making them safer and more people-friendly. You know, District 4 serves a pretty large portion of the neighborhoods in our community. It includes the state streets in Westmore Oaks. It includes Southport going all the way down to Dave's Farm at city limits. And so even in that diverse area, we could do a lot of improvements when it comes to repaving the roads, fixing the potholes, but also making the streets more people-friendly. We can have more protected bicycle lanes. We can have more marked pedestrian crosswalks. All the things we can do to make sure that our residents do have the ability to get around safely and smoothly. Another big issue in District 4 is the amount of park space. We are lucky in District 4 to have a mix of older neighborhoods as well as currently open lots for future development. And as we do that future development, and I hope to do it in a way that is smart and planned, where the growth is very focused, where the infrastructure is in place, it's important to also preserve park space and green space in those areas. A thriving West Sacramento community, to me, is one where every resident can live within walking distance of beautiful parks and beautiful community amenities. So that's a very big priority for me in District 4. Third priority for District 4 is making sure that we have a proper amount of job growth and retail options available for our community members. You know, I've lived in West Sacramento now for almost a decade, and in that time, there has always been at least one vacant storefront in the Southport Town Center. I want to do everything I can do on City Council to make sure that we are recruiting new businesses to West Sacramento to not only be job creators, but also to serve the community so residents don't have to go to downtown to dine out or to run errands. Those are things I would prioritize.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Verna, same question back to you. Thinking specifically to District 4 and the individuals that will be voting for you, what do you believe are the top 3 issues?
That's a great question, and we've been talking to the same people because absolutely improved infrastructure is the #1 concern of folks in our district. You know, District 4 is really interesting because we have the newer community, but also the state streets, which was built in the 50s, and so those neighborhoods need pothole repair, streets repaired. You cannot push strollers and wheelchairs around the sidewalks, and so making sure that we can get from A to B safely, whether you're walking or biking. There's a lot of neighborhoods that need simple solutions like stop signs and traffic calming measures. And I'd love to work with community members in the different neighborhoods to help identify that and help them advocate for themselves so that we can bring those type of traffic calming measures to the neighborhood. And then, you know, with all of our planned improvements, we need to make sure that we're educating our residents about what's going on. And that's one of the concerns I hear, that there's a lot of stuff happening, but people don't know what's happening with roads and infrastructure. So that's #1. #2, support for families. COVID decimated our affordable childcare in West Sacramento, and I have a plan to bring that back. We have programs that are needed, from our after-school programs to summer programs to our active aging and senior programs, that we can invest more in to provide a community for everybody, depending on if you're a child or if you're in our senior aging community. And that includes giving opportunities for events, social dining opportunities, but just providing support for our families. And then finally, what I'm hearing from residents is we need to strengthen our partnership between the city and the county so that we're creating really strong education for our community. The city has a 2x2 that the city and county, the city and school district meet, continuing those meetings and talking about how we can educate our community about the great schooling options we have, strengthening home run programs so that we can prepare all of our residents and students in West Sacramento to live healthy futures in the workforce.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Well, you both mentioned workforce as a business and the chamber hosting this. We very much appreciate that sentiment. We've also talked a lot earlier this evening around equity. So I want to ask both of you, Verna, this question will be directed to you. Given that we believe that equity is imperative to the path forward for economic prosperity, what industries do you believe are critical to inclusive growth in the city's economy and workforce?
Okay. That's a really great question, and I would say it is all of our industries. When we talk about equity, we need to be looking at all of our job markets in West Sacramento to make sure that we're representing our women-owned businesses, our minority-owned businesses, and that they're supported. You know, we hear stories all the time of these great local businesses that open but have issues negotiating rent and staying open. I think we have a lot of opportunity to support these retail businesses. You know, we talk about needing more local dining options. How can we step in and support these businesses to make sure that they can stay open when things aren't always fair and equitable for the smaller businesses? In 2018, we passed Measure N, which includes equitable investment for economic development, and I'd love to be able to support our smaller businesses, especially the ones on the retail front, with funding from Measure N. And you know, these are the conversations that I want to have with the local Chamber of Commerce. The Local Government Affairs Committee meets monthly. Those are conversations that I want to have with the Chamber about what's working and what's not in West Sacramento and where we're missing our mark. If we're going to create the community for everyone in West Sacramento, it's going to be built on partnerships. And the City and Chamber have a great partnership, and I want to continue that partnership and make sure that these channels of communication are open so we know what's working and what's not, so that the city can step in and support appropriately.
Verna. Alex, same question back to you. What industries do you believe are critical for inclusive growth in the city's economy and workforce?
Yeah, I think this is an excellent question because equity is the lens through which I make any decision, both here in West Sacramento and in my day job. And so I know in order to have a truly strong community in West Sacramento, we need to have a strong economy, a strong local economy where businesses can thrive and where people can find high quality jobs. To me, what equity would look like in our local business climate is having support for all aspects of industry, for having more industrial jobs, for having more retail jobs, for having more office and commercial jobs, to have offices and businesses that are women-owned, that are minority-owned, that are veteran-owned. All of this can be achieved. And as Verna has said, I think a large role in a way that we can do this is by having our city partner with the Chamber of Commerce and making sure that we are attracting and supporting those sorts of businesses so that we can retain them. You know, many businesses go out of, close down within the first year, especially in the restaurant industry. I know this well since I have family who work in that industry. And so I would want to make sure, both as a city, as a community as a whole, as a chamber, all of us can work together to support our local businesses. I think many people watching this video at home, and many people I've talked to as I go around sharing my campaign and why I'm running, when I tell them my name, they recognize me. And they do that because in 2021, I had a New Year's resolution to support a different West Sacramento local restaurant every week of the year. And while that probably wasn't the best resolution for my waistline, it was my favorite resolution I have ever done. If you use the hashtag TakeOutThursday on our West Sac Facebook community discussion board, or the hashtag ShopWestSac, DineWestSac, Support Dreams, which is of course the West Sac Chamber's platform that it had during the pandemic to support local businesses, you will find dozens of posts from me personally supporting our West Sacramento businesses. And that's what I would do on City Council. work with the community, and support our businesses so that our community and economy can thrive.
Great. Thank you, Alex. This next question came from our viewers. We're going to start again with you, Alex. As a leader for District 4, do you support closing the port to ships and turning it into a recreation area?
I think that's certainly a very intriguing prospect. And I know that the port has been a large part of our community's identity for many years. It's been in operation since before we were actually a city, since we incorporated in 1987. But as the times change, I do think it's important for us to always be on the lookout for ways on how we can innovate our community and make our community stronger, to make it a place where people of all avenues can succeed and have a high quality life. So while I wouldn't be informed in this moment to make a decision, I would fully support having those community conversations with community members, with residents, with stakeholders at the port to see if continuing the port in its current form is the best thing for West Sacramento, or if looking at it from a different angle would be the best way to serve us all.
Great. Thank you, Alex. Verna, same question to you. Specifically, do you support closing the port to ships and turning it into a recreation area?
So this is a really fun question because when I said we moved here in '87, it was for my dad to actually take a job at the Port of West Sacramento. I grew up at the port, from community events like Port Fest to jumping on the back of the trailer with my dad and other school kids to give tour of the ports. If my dad is walking tonight and he hears the term deindustrialize the port, it is going to break his heart. But it's definitely something that we need to be considering. Right now, the port is used for a variety of different things. You know, the rowing club has activities there. It's walking and biking paths. What worked there 10 years ago might not work 10 years in the future. And so we have one opportunity to get development of the port right, either investing in making it the demand that it can be for the port industry, or we need to do something differently. Being innovative in our solutions and being forward thinking, that is not a decision I want to make on my own. I think it's important that we have very smart, educated folks with experience sitting on our port commission. I think it's very important that we reach out to community members. The port sits near residential property that needs to, and those residents need to be taken into consideration. But we need to look at what other cities have done in these spaces to really create the space of the future. And so I don't know what that would look like now, but I absolutely welcome the opportunity to have these conversations, to look at folks who have done this type of work on riverfronts. When I was involved in the Urban Land Institute, we actually did a research of different communities with riverfront developments and what they did. There is a ton of resources and information out there for us to see what has worked and what's not worked in communities so that we can make the right decision for West Sacramento.
Great, thank you, Verna. Another question from the Facebook audience that actually is very similar to what we heard in the District 3 forum, but was really looking at Southport, right? Both districts represent much part of that part of our city. With the continuous and planned development, how do you ensure infrastructure like schools and parks get developed alongside of the new housing to support those new residents? For another question, we'll go right to you.
So you said parks and schools, correct?
Correct. But I would say any infrastructure.
Any infrastructure.
Right, that would be a recreational use for residents.
Yeah. I think it's really important that we continue strong, healthy relationships with the development community so that we can have these conversations about what West Sacramento needs. Not only do we need to expand our parks and open spaces, but with different developments, traffic calming measures, noise calming measures, all of those things need to be thought about, and we need to work in partnership with the developers to make sure that West Sacramento and our residents are benefiting from all of these new developments. And then it is absolutely our responsibility to hold folks accountable for what they promised the community, whether it's a new school or a new park or shade structures at the park. That is stuff that we have to stay on top of to make sure that everybody is playing their part and all these pieces of the puzzle are integrated so that new developments, and these are smart, and that are benefiting the community so that West Sacramento residents get the investment that they deserve.
Thank you, Verna. Alex, same question back to you.
This is important, and I want the viewers at home to realize that this is one of the biggest questions we face in West Sacramento, especially in District 4, because we do have all of this space for development And we have this projected long-term plan for growth in West Sacramento. And so it's critical that as we do that, we want to do it in a way that's smart, that's thoughtful, and one that accommodates all of the current and future needs that West Sacramentans have. For the city and serving on city council, it's a good opportunity when we work with the development community to make sure that they are held accountable and that they are planning and constructing schools to accommodate the future student growth, that they are supporting new fire stations and new areas for us to accommodate the additional population growth and all of the fire and public safety demands and responses that that growth would entail. As I mentioned earlier, one of my biggest priorities is parks and family-friendly amenities. So it's important that we make sure that the developers include parks, that they include these green spaces and recreation spaces, so that our residents, both current and future in West Sacramento, aren't living in a concrete jungle, but have those areas where they can enjoy a high quality of life. It's important to make sure that we have walking trails that connect not just the new communities with each other, but to the existing parts of West Sacramento. We want to make sure that there are many options for people to get around town, that they don't always have to rely on their private cars. Because if that's what they would do, we would certainly have congestion as we have future growth. And that's something we want to avoid in West Sacramento. As we plan ahead, we want to make sure that we're accommodating all forms of transportation: bicycle, pedestrian, transit, private vehicle, anything and everything to avoid congestion on the roads, because that is the #1 thing we will see in West Sacramento if we aren't doing our growth smartly. So for all of these reasons, I hope you at home are paying very close attention to this question, because this really is about the future of West Sacramento.
Thank you, Alex. We're going to move into the lightning round. Are we ready? So I'm going to ask each of you a series of questions. The answers will be, do you support or do you oppose? Please raise your hand if you support the policy I'm referring to, and please keep your hand down if you oppose. Let's start with, do you support West Sacramento approving retail cannabis within your district? Thank you both. Do you believe unhoused individuals have the right to camp on public property when shelter is available? Please raise your hand if you support. Please keep your hand down if you oppose. Thank you. There is a proposed development of a new community in Southport known as the Liberty Project. It consists of 1,500 residential units, a 12-acre K-8 school, and up to 10,000 square feet of retail commercial plus parks and trails. Please raise your hand if you support the Liberty Project. Thank you both. Tonight we've talked about, across the entire forum, about initiatives for the city. Many of those programs will cost additional money. In order to pay for those services, do you support new taxes? Please raise your hand if you support. Thank you both. Hold on. Oh, rent control, sorry. Rent control is a government program that places limits on the amount that a landlord can ask for a lease for a home or when renewing a new lease, or an old lease, excuse me. Please raise your hand if you support rent control. Please keep your hand down if you do not. Wonderful. Thank you both. Very much appreciate it. We'll go back to the questions. I've got a new one here from our Facebook audience. We will start this one with Alex. Sorry. How can you maximize opportunities to get federal dollars from the recently passed infrastructure deal within Congress?
Yeah, well, I would say, given my professional work experience for the last 8 years in the California State Legislature, I understand how important it is to maintain those relationships, both at the state and federal level. Because, candid talk, West Sacramento, population of under 60,000, we are a relatively small city, and we can't do it all on our own. We do need that assistance from our federal and state partners to have the funding to meet our infrastructure needs, to make sure that our levees are strong and protect our West Sacramento residents, to have the bridges and safe roads so that our people can get around the community and around the region safely and smoothly. And so I would leverage all of the personal and professional relationships I have developed in my work in the state Senate and in the state legislature, and build upon that to also further deepen my relationships with our federal representatives to make sure that West Sacramento is as successful as possible when it comes to receiving matching grant funds, when it comes to receiving additional financial support. That's important for us, and that's really one of the main roles of an effective city council member.
Thank you, Alex. Verna, question back to you. How do we maximize opportunities for federal dollars with the recent infrastructure deal in Congress?
So this is a space that I think West Sac has done fairly well on historically. Congresswoman Doris Matsui has been a super fan of West Sacramento, and one of her priorities, along with West Sacramentans for the last 15 years, is flood protection. And, you know, I've made that one of my priorities. It's not very sexy, but, you know, West Sac is generally an island. But it's been a priority for 15 years, and I'll continue making it a priority until our 200-year flood protection is ensued. And I believe we're in the final funding stages, and that's been done from years of relationships with our federal government and making sure that they understand the needs in West Sacramento. Partnerships are incredibly important. I think we have the opportunity to leverage our relationship with folks on the Sacramento side of the river to make sure that we're advocating as a region for federal funding. And then we also need to get creative in how we're asking for funding and what we're asking funding for. And so looking at different models of funding our roads and our streets, and even, you know, just what we saw on West Capitol Avenue recently. Making sure that partnerships are created so that money can come from different sources and different buckets, so that we can create, we can continue the infrastructure improvements we've made and plan for the future. You know, I think also looking at what we can do countywide as well. You know, in anything we're going to do in our region, you know, whether it's homelessness, transportation, housing, these are going to be regional partnerships, and making sure that we're having communications with our city government. I'm proud to be endorsed by the mayors of Davis and Elk Grove and Rancho Cordova in Sacramento, and these are relationships that we need to be working together so that when we do go to Congress and tell them what we need in our region, that they take us seriously.
Great. Thank you, Verna. Next question is going to come right back to you. One of the #1 issues impacting our community is homelessness. Not just here in West Sacramento, but you talk about partnering with some of our nearby cities. It's a significant challenge for our region. How would you, as a city council member, address the needs and challenges of the unhoused community and those, of course, that it's impacting, whether it be residents or businesses? And if that would include any additional investments, how would you pay for that?
So in 2015, I was the executive director of the Florin Road Partnership, which is a property and business improvement district in South Sacramento. And at that time, the #1 concern for business owners was issues related to homelessness. It is now 2022, and it is the #1 issue for businesses in West Sacramento. One of the ways we move the needle in my time on Florin Road is the City of Sacramento partnered with the County of Sacramento with Sacramento Steps Forward to bring a homeless navigator to work with our homeless community in the district and build relationships and trust with these folks to give services. I think the City of West Sacramento has done a really great job in that sense as we've taken a proactive approach with creating the community outreach and support team so that we have a homeless response, we have a co-responder model so that police, in addition to city staff, trained city staff with mental health resources, are visiting folks that need help and services. We've been successful in Home Key, Room Key. That needs to continue. Permanent supportive housing, 1801, West Capitol, incredible project. We need more of those. Studies have shown that 90% of people that go into those type of housing projects stay off the street permanently. That is a priority. We need to meet people where they're at. And then, you know, I think it's really important that we're looking long-term and making sure that we understand who the homeless are in West Sacramento and what programs can be implemented or expanded, like our home run program, our job training program, so that we can prevent homelessness. And then finally, how am I going to pay for this? I love that question because one of my high priorities that you can find on my website is the creation of a tourism improvement district where we will work with the hotels to create a special financing district that will actually increase our TOT, which will increase our general fund so that we can pay for a lot of these services.
Great. Thank you, Verna. Alex, same question back to you. How will you address the needs and challenges of those that are unhoused, and again, the implications that it makes to our residents and businesses? And if you are going to propose new investments, how will you pay for them?
Yeah, well, the impacts of homelessness, they affect us all. And it's not unique to West Sacramento. You know, we're facing a challenge all throughout California. And I see this in my day job, where in the state Senate, I specialize on housing and homelessness solutions. So I've seen methods that have had proven results to help address homelessness work in other communities. I would bring that here into West Sacramento. Homelessness is not something that you can wave a wand and will go away overnight, but there are both short-term and long-term ways that we can address this crisis. In the short term, we have a wonderful program here in West Sacramento called the Downtown Streets Team that provides our unhoused community members with the ability to give back to the community, to feel that they're part of the community, not that they're an outsider to be feared. They clean our streets, they have that sense of self-worth, and by doing that program, they help address in the short term some of those most visible causes of nuisance or fear or public health concern that sometimes are attached, sometimes fairly, sometimes unfairly, to our unhoused community members. All that said, in my mind, a compassionate approach to solving homelessness isn't one where we continue to let people camp out on the streets in front of businesses, posing as obstacles and making people unsafe and feel afraid to go into our local Raley's on West Capitol Avenue or other businesses in the community. The long-term approach to solve homelessness in California and in West Sacramento is to build more housing for them, where they can be safe and secure and get the access to services that will help them remain permanently housed. We just opened the Mercy Housing Permanent Supportive Housing Project on 1801 West Capitol Avenue, as Verna mentioned. And that's a fantastic project because it brings together not just stable housing, but connections to those mental health and job services to let these people stay on their feet. I would support a second permanent supportive housing project, and I would work with the state to find funding so that we can continue that work here in West Sacramento.
Great, thank you, Alex. Alex, this question will start with you. We all know that police and fire play an incredible and critical role to keeping our communities safe. What investments do you think are needed to both of those departments to continue that level of safety and, if possible, level it up?
Well, this is a very important topic because when it comes to local government, having a police and fire that is robustly funded and properly staffed to keep us safe is one of the primary roles of local government. And so I've had the opportunity now to speak with many members of our police department, many members of our fire department, and most importantly, many of our community members. And from them, I've heard some ways that we can improve our public safety and first responder support here in West Sacramento. When it comes to fire, just for example, Fire Station 45 on Lake Washington Boulevard opened almost 15 years ago. And at that time, it opened without another fire engine to properly meet the needs and demands in West Sacramento. In that time, now almost 15 years later, from conversations, we have seen the number of calls for assistance to our fire department triple. We have not seen any increase in terms of the fire equipment for that station or for other stations. And in fact, at the time when it opened, one engine down, we are still one engine down from the original plan. This is very important moving forward, both in terms of the current population in West Sacramento and in future growth, that we do have support so that our firefighters have the equipment they need to properly respond to emergency calls in our city. The last thing we want is to live somewhere, perhaps close to the end of city limits, and find out that we're not able to be helped in one of our most dire times because the fire department is all resourced out. Similarly with our police department, through conversations with community members and looking at our police department compared to other police departments in similar sized cities in the region, there is opportunity and a need to have a greater amount of police officer, patrol officers on the street. I think all of us have been affected recently by the sideshows, late at night, the cars that close down intersections, that cause quality of life concerns. And oftentimes we don't have enough officers to address those quickly. I'd make sure that we have the police and fire investment we need.
Thank you so much. Verna, same question back to you. What investments are needed to both police and fire to ensure and improve safety in our community?
So this is a really great question, and it's something that the City Council has already taken up. Right now, the City Council has brought in a public sector consultant to evaluate our police department and figure out staffing and resources and what's needed and what's not, and that report's supposed to come out in November. I sat in on one of the sessions with the consultant and listened to concerns from neighborhoods, and what's fascinating is, to me, safety is a feeling. There are people that do not feel safe in West Sacramento, and that's something that we need to take in deep consideration and make sure that we are providing the safety that meets their personal needs. I'm really proud of our police department, of the 21st century policing that they've done. and continuing that model so that we're working closely with the city and the police department and our residents to provide the proper services to the community. I mentioned Measure N before. I'll bring it up again. 50% of that is to increase salaries and public safety. I know that nationwide police departments are struggling to recruit and retain employees. That's something that we need to be looking at to make sure that we can bring in public safety officers and give them the support that they need and the adequate support. I know we had positions that we couldn't fill for a while, and so it was funded. So instead of just wiping the positions out, the community response team and co-responder model was created so that the police would get their support that they needed. Again, I'll mention it again, all of this stuff is going to happen with partnerships and having regular open communication based on trust, respect, and communication so that we can work together to address these needs, figure out how we're going to pay for them to make sure that the entire community of West Sacramento feels safe.
Great. Thank you so much, Verna. This next question I'm going to direct back to you. Project labor agreements require public infrastructure projects to have pre-hire collective bargaining agreements with one or more labor organizations. This usually establishes terms and conditions for employment for particular construction projects. For the City of West Sacramento public infrastructure projects, are you in favor of mandated economic workforce training related to labor agreements?
So I think it's really important that the folks who build this city are paid good wages, are given great health care. That includes maternity and paternity leave and offered retirement. And one of the ways that we do that is through project labor agreements. And I'm absolutely in support of project labor agreements for public projects over a certain amount. Both Alex and I have been in multiple conversations with our local union and trade leaders about project labor agreements and why they're so important, why local hire requirements, how they actually help the community, opportunities for apprenticeship programs. And so, supporting these types of programs will ensure that we back our working class in West Sacramento so that our community and everyone who's doing the work to build the community is supported well and able to live in the community that they're working in.
Thank you, Verna. Alex, same question back to you.
Yeah, I think project labor agreements are a wonderful tool for publicly funded projects, and there's many reasons for that. I'll give another example. Station 45, our fire station on Lake Washington Boulevard, opened brand new, barely 15 years ago, but a few years after it opened, there were already problems with the construction. And sometimes the reason for these is because when it comes to public projects right now, we often go with the lowest bidder, where it would be better, perhaps, to go with the most cost-effective, responsible bidder. When we do that, when we have a project labor agreement to make sure that we have a skilled and trained workforce that's paid well, that has the knowledge to build a project properly, we save money in the long run because we don't have to come back a few years later to take care of costly repairs, to take care of damage that could have been avoided in the first place if we had hired a skilled and trained workforce to create that project. Project labor agreements are also helpful because they do make sure that the workers working on these projects, they have strong wages, they have strong health benefits, they're able to have a high-quality job to support themselves and their families. And oftentimes, when the city becomes involved, they can make sure that we also have local hire provisions so that the people who are building these projects here in our city are actually our own community members, people who live in West Sacramento, who are proud to call it home, who can take their hard-earned earnings and reinvest it in the community when they support local businesses and local restaurants. All of these things are really helpful and why I think project labor agreements are a great mechanism for these sorts of projects.
Great. Alex, we're on to our last question of the evening, and then we will move to our closing comments. So I'm going to kick this last one to you, and then Verna, you'll help us close it out. The city, along with the West Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency, has created incredible partnerships to leverage local funds with state and federal funding. What do you believe are the important investments that are needed to protect our city against flooding?
Yeah, well, for our city as a whole, flood protection is important. But I would say, additionally, for this district that I'm looking to represent, District 4, it's especially critical because District 4 is surrounded by water, both on the north and east sides. It's essentially an island. And so when we do face these 100-year or 500-year floods, We all, residents and community members both, want to make sure we are in a city that has the strongest flood protections possible. Our city's already done a great job partnering with local agencies, with regional agencies, with our legislative and congressional representatives to make sure that we can get the funding and have the ability to not only build the strongest flood protections, but to maintain those flood protections moving forward. When I serve on City Council, I'll make sure we continue that hard work so that every member of the West Sacramento community can feel safe and secure in their homes.
Thank you, Alex. Question to you, Verna. What do you believe are the right investments that our city needs to protect ourselves against flooding?
I feel like I've already answered that question. You know, one of my top priorities, it's been the top priority of the city for the last 15 years, is flood protection. You know, getting us to 200-year flood protection is incredibly important, and I know we're very, very close, and I applaud all of the leaders in the community who've taken that as a priority to get us where we're at, because I can see the levee from my house. I think it's also important as we're doing this, waterways are also our biggest asset, and making sure that if there's possibilities to access the waterfront in different spaces, that we look to do that. You know, District 4 has this incredible opportunity to be this recreation gateway to the south, and making sure that while we're building these, strengthening these levees, we're still creating safe access to the waterfront and what that looks like. I think the community has done a great job moving forward so far, because we can actually access the levee and we can walk it now. We've got the Sacramento Yacht Club on the water, which is an incredible facility that actually gives you waterfront access, but making sure that all the partners are working together so at the end of the day we get our 200-year flood protection and we can protect our community, because you know, our homes there are our family's biggest assets, and we need to make sure that we're protecting that and protecting all of the families who are living there.
Thank you. Thank you both. All right, we'll conclude tonight with your closing statements. Verna, you will go first. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you to the Chamber. Thank you to everybody who's spending their Tuesday night with us online. It's been a pleasure to be here. We've only been able to cover a handful of issues. I know that the comments in the chat right now are absolutely blowing up, and I think this online format is wonderful, but only so much is able to be answered and spoken about. Would like to share that my website has been updated with 11 of my priorities and kind of plans on how I look to execute those. So please visit my website. But I'd like to meet you. If we have not had the opportunity or I haven't knocked on your door yet, this Friday night I'm going to be at Kildare Farms, which is a local flower farm here in West Sacramento, for their pumpkin picking pop-up. Say that 5 times fast. And I'd love for you to come out to not only support a local farm, but to meet me. I've got some information about our new districts, and I'd love the opportunity to just chat with you more in person. You know, I'll say it before and I'll say it again. I love West Sacramento, and we have so much opportunity. I am looking forward to partnering with our school district, our current city council members, our mayor, to continue to provide opportunities for all the families in West Sacramento. The last 20 years, I've built a very strong resume of building coalitions and partnerships and creating programs that really move the needle and make change in the communities I serve. And I want to continue doing that in West Sacramento, and it would be an honor to serve as your next city council member. Thank you.
Thank you, Verna. Alex, 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Well, I want to personally thank everyone who's stuck through and is taking the time at almost 8 o'clock on a weeknight to watch this video and to pay attention to this forum, because this is incredibly important to the future of West Sacramento. Local elections matter. Local government is the level of government that impacts our daily lives more than any other level. Safe streets, public safety, parks and amenity, places to work, places to shop, places to dine, all of this is affected by our local government. All of this falls under the purview of City Council. And you can trust with me that I take that responsibility very seriously. I have lived my entire life with the belief in service over self. That's why I have a public service career. That's why I volunteered in our community for over a decade, or almost a decade now, working with the Friends of the Library and on various city commissions. It's because making sure our West Sacramento community is the strongest, most vibrant, most successful place possible is deeply important to me. I have the vision of a brighter West Sacramento future, where all of us can succeed and all of us can thrive. Even though I'm running to represent District 4 on West Sacramento City Council, I'm running to serve all of us because I know that we are one community and that we are all successful when every corner of West Sacramento has a wonderful place to live. I'm proud to have the endorsement of people and organizations who share that same vision. I'm proud to be endorsed by our West Sacramento firefighters, by West Sacramento working families, by West Sacramento Mayor Martha Guerrero, and over 20 elected and appointed current and former West Sacramento officials. All of them support me because they share that same vision, that we can achieve that bright West Sacramento future if we work together. That's what I'll do on City Council, and as you see me over the next few weeks, supporting local businesses or knocking on your doors, please say hi and share your thoughts about how we can achieve that future together. Thank you.
Wonderful job to you both. I want to thank you both for being here, sharing your thoughtful approaches to so many of our city's critical issues. For our online viewers, this brings our Candidates Forum to a close. Again, I want to thank all of the candidates who have been here this evening and for taking the time to share with all of you. I want to thank Spring Hill Suites in West Sacramento for allowing us to use your space. A recording of this forum will be available on the West Sacramento Chamber of Commerce's website and our YouTube channel, so be on the lookout for that tomorrow. I want to thank all of you, our online audience, for taking part in this important program, and I encourage all of you to vote on November 8th. This forum was a presentation of the West Sacramento Chamber of Commerce as a community service to our businesses and our residents. I am so humbled and honored to have been the moderator tonight. Thank you again, and on behalf of the Chamber, have a great night.